Vanishing stone gate. Have you ever walked past something so many times that you stopped noticing it, only for it to one day be gone, and no one else seems to remember it? Imagine finding a massive stone doorway standing alone in the middle of a quiet desert, weathered by time, surrounded by nothing, and yet unmistakably there. Now imagine coming back months later, same spot, same coordinates, same landscape, and it's simply missing. That's the story explorers tell about the vanishing stone gate, they say. It appears only twice a year, once during the spring equinox and once during the fall, a stone archway, standing tall under the open sky, casting a long shadow over the empty sand. Then, hours later, it disappears without a trace. No sound, no flash, no collapse. It just isn't there anymore. Some call it a trick of the light. Others say it's a lie. But what do you think? Have you ever been to a place that felt different? Like it was watching you or hiding something? If you have, I'd love to know. Drop your story in the comments or tell us where you're watching from. Maybe you're near a place like this. The people who claim to have seen the vanishing gate are not trying to go viral. They're quiet about it. Most of them are old travelers, desert guides, or amateur researchers. They describe the exact same structure, rectangular arch, taller than a truck, made of stone that doesn't match any of the nearby rocks. It's smooth, pale grey, almost like it was carved yesterday. Some say it hums softly. Others mention a slight pressure in the air when they're near it, like the air feels heavier or thinner depending on where you stand. But here's the strangest part. It's never been caught on camera. Not once. Photographers try, of course. People go out during the equinox, setting up tripods and high-resolution lenses. Some claim their equipment fails. Others come back with blurry files or shots that show an empty patch of sand. Even those who swear they saw it can't prove it. So, is the gate really vanishing, or is something else going on? Think about how we trust our memory. We remember where we left our keys or the name of someone we just met. But we also forget small things, what we wore a week ago, what we ate last Tuesday. Now imagine seeing something impossible, something your brain can't quite file into. A normal category. Would you trust that memory? Would you believe yourself if no one else did? It's like when you wake up from a dream and for a few moments it feels real. Or when you're in a new place and get that strange sense you've been there before. Sometimes our mind tells us something is true, even if there's no evidence. And sometimes the absence of proof doesn't mean something didn't happen. That's the puzzle here. Not just the stone gate, but the feeling that surrounds it. The way people describe a kind of pull, like it's calling them closer, like something on the other side wants to be seen, but only for a moment. Many who hear this story wonder what might be behind such a gate. Some believe it leads nowhere. Others think it's a marker, like a page in a book, left open to a specific chapter. Some even wonder if it's a test of attention, of belief, a structure that only appears to those who are looking without trying too hard, like love or understanding, or a certain kind of peace. It disappears the moment you try to trap it and returns when you least expect it. In that way, the vanishing stone gate feels more like a mirror than a mystery. It shows us how quickly we want proof, how badly we need things to stay still, to be measured, explained, and owned. But the world doesn't always work like that. Not everything ancient is meant to be captured. You know how some songs feel like they've always existed, or how certain dreams leave you with a mood that lingers all day, even though the details are gone. That's how this story feels to many. It's not just about an object. It's about the idea that there are still places out there untouched by maps or explanations. Places that remind us that not knowing is still part of being human. That wonder itself is a kind of truth. And this story has a strange way of staying with people. Even if they didn't see the gate, even if they don't believe it exists, they find themselves thinking about it at quiet moments. Driving at night, watching the sunset, listening to silence. Maybe that's the real reason the vanishing stone gate matters. Not because it proves something about time or space or forgotten technology, but because it gives us space to think, to pause, to wonder. It asks us, gently, if we've been paying attention, if we're still capable of awe, and if something appeared only once in your life, just long enough for you to see it, but not long enough to prove it, what would you do with that moment? Would you tell someone? Would you doubt yourself? Or would you carry it like a quiet gift? We may never find that exact gate, but maybe we don't need to. Maybe its story is enough to remind us that the world is still full of quiet corners, hidden doors, and unanswered questions. Maybe what we really need isn't another answer, but the chance to feel curious again. And if that's something you value too, I'd love if you took a second to like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences, and subscribe so we can explore more mysteries together. You don't need to believe in everything. Just be willing to wonder, because sometimes that's all the door needs to open. Floating stair shrine. Have you ever looked at something so impossible that your brain just stopped for a moment? Like seeing a staircase, standing in the air with no support underneath, no ceiling above, just floating where it shouldn't be. In the middle of a ruined temple, half swallowed by vines and cracked stone, there's a spiral staircase that winds up into nothing. The base is missing. Long gone, no sign of where it began, and no idea how it's still holding itself up. People who've seen it say it doesn't feel heavy or even real. It just hovers, solid as bone but silent like mist. And yet, there it is. It's the kind of thing that makes you pause, not just because it's strange, but because it makes you question everything you think you know. Have you ever had a moment like that? Something small, but it left a deep mark. Maybe a place you visited that felt older than it should. Maybe something you saw once and never again. If you've experienced anything like that, I'd love to know. Share where you're from, or if you've seen something that didn't make sense. I think we all carry a few mysteries like that, and maybe they're what keep us wondering. Now picture this. A team of travelers comes across a collapsed shrine deep in the forest, where moss grows thick and daylight feels thin. The walls have broken down, roots crawling through stone, and everything is quiet except the sound of birds and wind. Then they see it, a staircase rising out of the dirt, elegant, smooth, perfectly curved, and floating without any visible support. They walk around it, they inspect it from every side. It's not tied to the ceiling or touching the floor, and yet it holds. Some of them say they felt something when they got closer, gentle pull in their chest, like the stairs were calling them upward. But upward to what? There's nothing there, just air. No platform, no exit, just the staircase, and then the sky above. It's strange, because a staircase is supposed to take you somewhere. That's its purpose. But this one seems to exist only to rise and then stop. No beginning, no end. Just the shape of movement frozen in time. It's hard not to feel something when you see that. confused, curious, a little scared, maybe, or just quiet, and sometimes quiet is enough. That's what makes this shrine different. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand answers, it just waits. And in that waiting, something inside us shifts. We start to notice our thoughts, our questions, even the way we breathe. That's the power of a mystery. It slows us down. It makes space inside us for wonder. Have you ever stood at the bottom of a staircase and looked up, not knowing what's at the top? That feeling, right before the first step, that's what this shrine holds forever. And maybe that's the point. Maybe it was never built to be climbed. Maybe it was built to remind us of something deeper, like how we keep reaching, even when we don't know where we're going. Like how we trust the next step will appear, even if we can't see the whole path. That's something we all live with, whether it's love or learning or simply waking up each day. We climb, we keep going, not because we know what's ahead, but because something inside us hopes. And hope is a kind of mystery too, isn't it? Something we can't explain, but still follow. The staircase isn't just a thing in a forest. It's a reflection of us, of the way we move through life without all the answers. Some say the shrine was built by people who believed in balance, who thought the body could float if the mind was clear. Others say it's a forgotten experiment left behind by a civilization more advanced than we imagine. But maybe it doesn't matter who built it. Maybe what matters is that it still stands, that it waits in silence for the next person to come and wonder. We spend so much time needing explanations, scrolling, searching, wanting to know why and how and what's next. But sometimes it's okay to sit with not knowing, to let something exist without being solved, like a staircase that rises through air and holds its shape, even without logic to support it. If you've made it this far, maybe this is the kind of peace you've been searching for. A place where questions don't need answers right away, just the space to breathe and be still. If that speaks to you, I'd love if you could like this video, leave a comment about your own mystery or quiet place, and subscribe so we can explore more of these strange and beautiful corners of the world together. Because even when we don't understand, we can still be moved. And that's more than enough. Inverted Sky Temple. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt sure it was trying to tell you something, even if you couldn't quite hear its message? Imagine waking up on a cold mountaintop, the air so still you can almost taste it, and stepping into an ancient stone chamber carved into the rock. Above you, the ceiling is painted with stars' constellations, so clear and precise they feel more vivid than the sky itself. But here's the strange part. When explorers brought telescopes and star charts, they found that many of the star patterns on the ceiling simply do not exist. They mirror a sky that isn't ours, a night map that seems to come from another world. If you've ever felt drawn to the stars in a way that changed how you see yourself, maybe you remember staying awake late as a child, tracing shapes in the sky until your eyelids droop. Tell me where you are in the comments below. Your stories of midnight wonder help us remember how small bits of mystery can connect us across time and space. And before we dive into this forgotten shrine, if you enjoy calm journeys through history's quiet corners, please give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration. The Inverted Sky Temple sits high enough in the mountains that most people can't reach it without a guide. Its stone walls are smooth with age, the floor worn by countless footsteps, yet when you step inside, it feels untouched by time. The painted ceiling glows faintly in the lantern light, as if reflecting starlight back down. Explorers first noticed the ceiling on a clear night when the real sky glittered above. They counted the stars, matched them to the painted versions, and realized half the constellations were impossible. They were drawn in arrangements that make no sense from Earth's perspective. It's like looking in a mirror and seeing your reflection wearing clothes you've never owned. That discovery shut the researchers' breath away. They would step out into the crisp night air, look up at the sky they know, and then back at the ceiling that knows another. It's a feeling many of us know in small ways. When a friend says something that seems to reach into your heart, or when you hear a song that perfectly captures a feeling you couldn't name, it's the sense that part of you fits somewhere else, in a place you've never been. Local legends say the temple was built by people who studied the sky not just to guide their crops or travel, but to touch the heavens themselves. They believed that by carving a map of the stars on the temple's ceiling, they could enter a world where matter and memory blend, where time collapses and the soul can roam among distant suns. In everyday life, we do something similar when we look in the mirror before an important meeting, or when we reread old letters to relive moments long past. We create our own small shrines of memory, painted in our minds so we can visit them whenever we need comfort or insight. The builders of the inverted sky temple simply chose the stars instead of words. Some nights, when the moon is new and the real sky is darkest, a few people say they've seen the painted constellations shimmer, as if the heavens beyond were nudging the stone to remind them it's still out there. That's not something you see on a weather app or in a textbook. It's a quiet pulse in the world, reminding us that there's always more beyond what we know. Scientists have come and gone, bringing sensitive instruments, hoping to explain how the painters could have known stars that only telescopes would reveal centuries later, or how the pigment still glows, even though natural minerals should fade. They've tested the rock, the paint, the air in the chamber. They've scanned for magnetic fields or radioactive decay. But nothing adds up. The pigment doesn't match any known source. The wall doesn't record any hidden cavities or wiring. The effect isn't a trick of light or a mirage. It's just there, solid and impossible. And here's the paradox, that impossibility is exactly what makes the temple feel more alive than a ruin whose secrets are all solved. Because once you think you understand something completely, there's no space left to wonder. No room for that quiet shiver of possibility. In our relationships, we often do the same. We think we know someone, then a single glance or word reveals layers we never saw. It's like a minor earthquake in the heart. And in our minds, we build models of how our world works, trusting them until reality nudges us awake. The inverted sky temple is a stone reminder that models are useful, but they're never the whole story. There's always an edge where knowledge ends and mystery begins. Some of the temple's visitors have said that after leaving, they found themselves looking up at the sky differently, more softly, more thoughtfully. They noticed stars they'd never paid attention to before. They saw patterns of emotion in the constellations, as if the night sky were a canvas for their own inner world. That's the strange gift of mystery. It changes how you see everything else. Technologists today talk about mapping the unknown in data, teaching machines to recognize patterns beyond human sight. But no algorithm has yet decoded the inverted sky temple's ceiling. Perhaps because it's not a puzzle to solve, but a question to live with. A question that asks, not what does it mean, but what do you feel when you see something you can't explain? Sometimes the right answer is not an answer at all, but a whisper that says, keep looking, keep wondering, And maybe that whisper is the real message the temple's builders wanted to convey, that the universe is always larger than our view, and that the deepest truths are woven into our capacity to be curious. If this story stirred something in you, echo of a dream you can't quite remember, or a memory of a night you stood beneath the stars, please share it in the comments. Let us know where you are and what part of the sky makes you pause. And if you believe that gentle mysteries deserve a place in your day, tap that like button and subscribe. We have many more quiet adventures, waiting, each one a small doorway to the unknown, just like the inverted sky temple itself. Shifting wall puzzle. Have you ever walked into a room only to find the walls look different than you remembered, as if the very space around you decided to move while you weren't looking? Imagine a small stone courtyard in a hidden valley, surrounded by high, ancient walls built without mortar or hinges, each stone carved to fit perfectly. Locals say that twice a year, at the solstices, those same stones shift their alignment ever so slightly, just enough that pathways open or close, new windows appear, and old doors vanish. On the morning of the change, villagers wake to find stones that once blocked the sun now framing a narrow beam of light, or a passage they used every day has become sealed tight. If you've ever felt life rearrange itself without warning, like a routine pattern broken by a sudden rainstorm, or a friendship that changes without clear cause, share your story in the comments and let us know where you are. Before we explore deeper, please like this video and subscribe if you enjoy gentle journeys through history's soft mysteries. This puzzle of shifting walls isn't magic, say the elders, but a test of patience and faith. Over generations, people learned not to force the doors or hammer at the stones. Instead, they wait. They gather each solstice at dawn, light a single candle at the center of the courtyard, and breathe together in silence. The shifting wall reveals itself in its own time. It doesn't rush. It doesn't shout. And in that quiet unfolding, something else shifts inside the watchers. Their sense of control, their need for certainty, and their understanding of change itself. Think about the last time you faced a sudden shift in your own life. Perhaps a plan cancelled when you least expected it, a project at work rearranged by a sudden email, or a relationship that changed course without warning. In that moment, you might have felt discomfort, confusion, even anger. But if you paused, breathed, and waited without trying to force the situation, you may have noticed patterns emerging, new doors opening, fresh perspectives arriving. That's the same paradox. The shifting wall teaches that sometimes the gentle movement of life is more precise and purposeful than our strongest efforts to control it. When explorers first mapped the courtyard, they brought tools, ropes, and cameras. They tried to fix the stones in place with metal braces. They set up time-lapse photography, yet at each solstice, their equipment failed. Braces fell loose, cameras stopped recording. Even the light meters they left behind captured nothing. It was as if the courtyard itself refused to be studied, insisting that its mystery remain intact. This reminds me of how we sometimes treat our own minds. We rush to label emotions, to diagnose feelings, to find quick fixes. We treat stress like a problem to solve, rather than a message to understand. But stress, like the shifting wall, often changes on its own schedule, revealing new paths when we least expect it. And when we try too hard to hold on to certainty, we miss the subtle openings that emerge only in stillness. Over time, the courtyard became a place of quiet pilgrimage. Pilgrims come from distant lands, carrying small tokens letters they can no longer send, burdens they cannot carry, hopes they dare not speak. They slip these tokens into cracks between stones, trusting the wall to shift them away at the next solstice. They don't know where their token will go or how it will be received, but the act of placing it is itself a relief, a way of saying release, transform, forgive. In everyday life, we do similar things. We write down worries in journals. We tell friends secrets we can't hold alone. We prune our calendars to let space for rest. These acts are simple, yet they mirror the ritual of the shifting wall. We place our burdens where we trust change to carry them away. Psychology today calls this letting go. Spiritual traditions call it surrender. The shifting wall calls it faith, and in this ancient courtyard, faith isn't blind. It's a gentle knowing that life's architecture is alive, more flexible and responsive than we often believe. There is a broader lesson here for how we build our own inner structures. We shape our beliefs, our habits, our daily routines as if they were set in stone. But the courtyard reminds us that stones can move, walls can breathe, and pathways can rearrange themselves to guide us forward. It touches on deeper themes, belief in the unseen language without words, and even mental health practices that encourage people to observe their thoughts without judgment. Just as the courtyard shifts without explanation, our minds shift without always telling us why. It's in the pause between thoughts, the space between breaths, that we often find our truest direction. In modern technology, we build algorithms to predict patterns and lock systems against change. We design smart homes that keep lights constant and thermostats steady. Yet the courtyard challenges us to embrace a design that welcomes movement, that thrives on subtle shifts, that trusts the environment to guide its own evolution. It suggests that the most intelligent systems are not the ones that resist change, but the ones that adapt to it gracefully. So as you go through your day, remember the lesson of the shifting wall puzzle. When something shifts in your life, your plans, your routines, your emotions, see if you can pause and breathe. Notice how the stones of your world rearrange themselves, opening doors you didn't know were there. Trust that change can be kind, that it can guide you forward in ways you couldn't have predicted. And if this story moved you, please leave a comment about a time you witnessed sudden, gentle change in your own life. Like this video if you believe in the beauty of mystery, and subscribe for more calming explorations of the world's quiet wonders. Because sometimes the most lasting walls are the ones we allow to shift. Melting rock room. Have you ever stepped into a place that felt like it shouldn't exist, where every part of it quietly told you that something about the world was different than you thought? Deep beneath the earth, hidden away in a quiet and cool cave, explorers found something that looked more like a dream than reality. Walls of solid stone, melted and curved as if shaped by fire, but not the kind of fire we understand. These stone walls flow like soft wax, their surfaces smooth and strange, as though someone had taken a flame and traced it across the rock. But no tools we know of, no furnace, no technique from the time this cave was made could have produced heat that powerful or that precise. It's like walking into a painting that has started to drip, but nothing is moving, and everything is still. If you've ever seen something that didn't make sense, like a shadow that moved when nothing else did, or a building that seemed to watch you back, share your story in the comments below and let us know where you're watching from. And if you enjoy quiet journeys into the mysteries of the world, where the answers are less important than the wonder, please like this video and subscribe so you can join us again. The first time researchers entered the cave, they thought it had been carved by hand. But the more they looked, the more it didn't add up. The curves weren't cut. They weren't shaped by tools or hammered into place. They flowed. The walls looked like they had been melted, not in some chaotic way, but gently, with care, like someone had taken heat and sculpted it like clay. But there were no burn marks, no soot, no signs of charring or fire. It was as if the stone had softened by itself for just a moment, then hardened again. It's strange to think of something as heavy and permanent as rock behaving like something soft and gentle. It reminds us that even the strongest things we know can surprise us. Think of your own life. You might think of certain things as fixed: your schedule, your emotions, your plans. But just like the stone, they can shift when you least expect it. A day can start off normal and then change in a second: a phone call, a moment of silence, or even a dream that stays with you after you wake. We all have moments when something that felt solid suddenly feels soft and uncertain. And while it can be unsettling, it's also a chance to look deeper. There are stories passed down about this cave. Some say it was once a place where people came to learn about themselves, to sit quietly and listen, not just to the world, but to their own thoughts. They believed the melted stone was a message that everything can change shape if we are willing to let it. That message feels deeply human. We spend so much time trying to hold everything in place. We try to control our futures, our relationships, our feelings. But this cave, with its soft and silent walls, tells us it's okay to let things shift. It's okay to not understand everything. Sometimes it's better that way. Scientists brought tools, of course. They tested the walls, scanned the cave, tried to understand what kind of heat could do this. But every answer brought more questions. The temperature required to melt stone in this way would be higher than any known source at the time of its creation. Yet the walls showed no signs of damage. It was as if the stone had agreed to melt, not been forced. That idea is haunting. It feels like the cave itself wanted to change, like it participated in its own creation. Imagine if we could do the same: melt our old thoughts, let go of the past, and shape something new without fear. In relationships, we often try to be solid. We try to be the strong one, the reliable one, the one who doesn't change. But what if being soft, being open to change, was just as strong? What if real strength comes from knowing when to hold and when to let go? The cave doesn't speak, but its silence says a lot. It says that transformation doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it happens quietly, deep beneath the surface, where no one sees. In mental health, there's a lesson here too. Many people struggle with the feeling that they must always stay the same. But growth often comes from softening expectations, softening fear, softening self-judgment. The melted cave walls show that even the hardest things can become fluid. Even pain, if given space and time, can shift. That idea can be healing. And when we think of technology, of AI machines, programs that follow strict rules, we realize how different the natural world is. The cave wasn't made with code. It doesn't follow the logic of software. It flows in ways we don't fully understand. It reminds us that not everything valuable fits into a system. Not every mystery is meant to be solved. Some are meant to be experienced slowly and with wonder. People who visit the cave today say it feels quiet, but not empty. The air is still, but there's a presence. They describe the sensation of time slowing down, of being watched, not by eyes, but by memory. It's as if the cave remembers what it has been through. It doesn't rush you. It lets you stand there, breathe, and feel something shift, not outside, but inside. That's the real paradox. We go looking for ancient mysteries in the world, and sometimes we find them waiting quietly in ourselves. If this story touched something in you, a memory, a question, or even just a calm feeling, please share it in the comments. Tell us where you are. Maybe you've seen a place that didn't make sense, or felt a moment where reality seemed to soften. Your story matters, and someone else may need to hear it. Like this video if you believe that mystery still has a place in our lives. Subscribe to join us again for more gentle thoughts and quiet wonders, because sometimes it's not about knowing everything, it's about standing still in the middle of something we can't explain and letting it change us. Tomb without shadow. Imagine standing under the midday sun, the heat pressing gently on your shoulders. But when you look down, there's no shadow, not for you and not for the stone tomb in front of you. You shift a little, expecting the light to catch something, an edge, a crack, but still nothing appears. It's as if the sun has forgotten how to cast its reflection here. That's what explorers found on a quiet hill in a forgotten part of the world. A mausoleum, old and worn, carved from the earth itself, standing in complete silence, and for several weeks each year it casts no shadow at all. No matter the time of day, no matter how bright the sky, the structure absorbs the light without returning its outline to the ground. Locals say it's not just a strange trick of the sun, it's a message, a warning, or perhaps an invitation. Some believe it connects to a distant eclipse, one that only aligns once in a lifetime. And when it does, they say the tomb briefly glows not from the sky, but from within. Have you ever experienced a moment like this? A place or feeling that made you question reality, even for a second? Tell us in the comments. Share where you're from, and if your part of the world holds similar mysteries. And if you enjoy walking through these soft and strange corners of history with us, like this video and subscribe to join the journey. When scientists first heard about the tomb, they thought it was folklore. But when they stood beside it and watched the sunlight refuse to cooperate, they were stunned. The measurements were checked and rechecked. The sun rose and set, the angle shifted, and still the shadow didn't appear. During those few shadowless weeks, the tomb seems to vanish into the light itself. It doesn't reflect, it absorbs. It becomes part of the air. And then, when the moment passes, the shadow returns as if nothing ever happened. There are no mirrors, no lenses, no mechanical tricks, just stone, sunlight, and silence. The alignment that makes this possible, it's so exact that modern architects struggle to believe it could be done without advanced tools. Yet, the people who built this did it with nothing but their hands, the sky, and something else, patience maybe, or faith. Think of how hard it is to get things right in our own lives. We miss appointments, get times wrong, or find ourselves caught between too many choices. Even small details, like remembering where you left your keys, or replying to a message, can feel like a puzzle. But this tomb, it got everything right, perfectly. It found its place in the sun, and then waited. Not just for years, but for centuries. Sometimes it feels like life is always rushing, always demanding. But this tomb teaches something else. Precision can be quiet. Purpose doesn't always shout. Some truths reveal themselves slowly, like the way this tomb only connects with a distant eclipse. A moment so rare and soft that most people never see it happen. but it does happen. It just waits for the right time. We all have our own shadows, don't we? Parts of ourselves we try to hide. Memories that trail behind us. Worries we carry silently, like the fear of not being enough or the pressure to always be strong. But imagine, for a little while, having no shadow, no heaviness following you, just light all around. What would you see? What part of yourself would be free to shine? This tomb, with its strange defiance of nature, invites us to consider how belief and reality dance with one another. Sometimes, when we let go of the need to explain everything, we begin to understand more. And that's what this story touches, something deeper than architecture. It speaks to belief, to the quiet spaces in us that hope for something more. Whether it's faith in a higher force, trust in others, or just the wish to understand why things happen the way they do, this shadowless tomb mirrors that feeling. It doesn't explain itself, it just is. And somehow, that's enough in language. We often describe understanding as seeing clearly or shedding light on something. But what if true understanding came from the places where the light doesn't behave? What if the answers live not in clarity, but in mystery? This tomb asks us to be okay with not knowing, and that's hard for scientists, for thinkers, for all of us. We're trained to look for proof, to trust what casts a shadow. But sometimes, the things that don't leave a mark are the ones that stay with us the longest. Even technology, with all its answers, can't decode everything. We build machines to track stars, to simulate eclipses, to scan and model ancient buildings. But no code has been able to explain why this tomb behaves the way it does. It obeys a rule we haven't written yet. And maybe that's the point. Not every mystery wants to be solved. Some just want to be witnessed. Locals around the tomb don't try to explain it. They live with it. They gather in silence during those shadowless weeks. Some sit, some pray, others just look. It becomes less about the shadow and more about the space it leaves behind. A kind of peace that comes from accepting something strange and beautiful without needing to change it. Maybe that's a lesson for relationships too. We spend so much time trying to fix or understand the people around us. But what if, like the tomb, some people simply need us to sit with them without judgment, without fixing them, just let them be? As you reflect on this quiet story, ask yourself, what parts of your life are you trying to force into the light? What if you could let some of them rest in the calm of not knowing? What if you could give yourself permission to pause, to align with something distant and beautiful even, if it only comes once in a while? If this story helped you feel still or curious, let us know in the comments. Share your thoughts, tell us where you're listening from. And if you haven't already, like this video and subscribe for more calm, thoughtful journeys like this. Because sometimes, the most powerful moments are the ones that don't cast a shadow at all. Gravity well chamber. Have you ever stepped into a room and instantly felt heavier, like something invisible was quietly pressing down on your shoulders? Not sadness, just a quiet weight, pulling you closer to the ground. That's exactly what happens in a stone room hidden deep inside. An old site known only to a few explorers and the quiet locals who speak of it in whispers. There are no machines, no strange equipment, no changes in the air or smell. And yet everyone who enters says the same thing. It feels like gravity changes inside. Not enough to harm you, not enough to panic, but just enough that walking takes more effort, and lifting your arms feels like moving through water. It's not magnetic, it's not the weather, it's just heavier. And the moment you step out, everything returns to normal. No tools can explain it, No measurements make sense. It's one of those places that simply exists, and maybe that's the most unsettling part. Have you ever felt that kind of weight? Maybe during an exam you didn't prepare for, or in a moment where everything felt a little too real. Or maybe it wasn't a place, but a moment in time standing in front of a difficult choice, or hearing words that changed how you saw someone forever. We all carry invisible weight at times. That's what makes this room feel oddly familiar. Share your story in the comments if you've ever felt something like this, even if it made no sense. And if these mysteries help you find a calm space to reflect, consider liking and subscribing so we can walk through more quiet puzzles together. Inside the chamber, scientists have tried to bring every possible device to measure changes in gravity, air pressure, or sound, but nothing ever shows anything different. It's like reality plays fair on paper, but quietly breaks its own rules when no one's looking. The stone walls don't vibrate. The floor doesn't shift. Even the light looks the same. And yet, your body knows. It feels it. Just like how we sometimes sense tension in a room without anyone speaking a word, or how our mood changes when someone walks in this room, speaks in silence. Some believe it's a natural anomaly. Others think it was designed, not by machines or modern tools, but by minds that knew how to work with the land in ways we'd forgotten. It's strange to think about, isn't it? How ancient builders might have known something we still can't explain. And instead of writing it down, they let their structures speak for them. That's something we've lost, trusting experience over explanation. In our daily lives, we rush for answers. We want quick results, fast fixes, simple instructions. But some places and some feelings refuse to be solved. They just ask us to feel. This gravity well chamber may not give answers, but it gives something else. The chance to slow down, to feel the pull of something bigger, and to ask questions without expecting to be right. And maybe that's what makes it special, because just like emotions or thoughts we don't understand, it doesn't need to be explained to be real. What if life worked the same way? What if the heaviness we carry sometimes isn't something to fix, but something to notice, to sit with, and eventually grow through? Even in relationships, there are moments that feel heavier than others. Silence between two people. Distance that isn't physical but emotional. We don't always understand why it happens, but we feel it tanned in that way. Maybe this chamber is more like us than we think. Simple on the outside, quiet, ordinary, but full of something deep, heavy, and hard to explain. And when you leave, you carry something with you, not just the memory, but the feeling itself. Like how dreams can leave a mood behind even after we forget the story. Or how a song can bring back someone's face without a single word. That's the kind of mystery this room holds. And in a world that constantly pushes us to understand, to explain, and to solve sometimes, it's the things we can't explain that help us feel most alive. If you found comfort in this story, let us know where you're listening from. Share your thoughts. And if you'd like to explore more strange, soft spaces like this one, don't forget to like and subscribe, because sometimes feeling a little heavier reminds us just how deeply we're connected to things we don't yet understand. Dome of silence. Imagine speaking a sentence, and halfway through, your own voice disappears as if the words were never spoken at all. No echo, no fade, just silence, deep and immediate. That's what happens inside a strange dome hidden beneath the ground, known quietly as the Dome of Silence. Those who enter say the effect is instant. A friend once described it like talking underwater, but without the sound distortion, just the complete absence of sound, like your voice is swallowed by the air itself. Microphones record nothing, no breathing, no footstep. Even the soft shuffle of clothing is gone. And yet, you're alive, awake, breathing. It's the kind of silence that feels heavy, like something pressing inward, not loud, not painful, but so quiet that it makes your thoughts louder. Have you ever been in a room so quiet your heartbeat felt like a drum? Maybe during an exam when everyone's waiting. Or at night, lying awake after an argument when the silence says more than words ever could. That's what this dome feels like. And it makes you wonder how much of our comfort comes from noise. The hum of a fridge, the ticking of a clock, the small sounds we never notice until they're gone. If you've ever experienced that kind of silence, the kind that feels like it watches you, let us know in the comments where it was. Maybe it was a cave, or an old house, or even just a quiet evening alone. Inside the dome, people have tried to shout, sing, even scream, but the result is the same. No sound leaves the mouth, and more strangely, no one else can hear you. You could be standing inches apart, lips moving, and still hear nothing, not even your own breathing. It's as if sound refuses to exist in this one spot. Scientists have tried to explain it with materials, design, or natural phenomena, but nothing fits. The dome isn't made of special metal or absorbent walls. It's just stone, old and weathered, shaped into a perfect half-sphere. Some believe it's the shape itself, the curve that steals the sound. Others think it's a mistake, a fluke of nature. But those who've been inside often say something different. They say it feels intentional, like it was built to be quiet, built to take the outside world and hold it back, leaving only you and your thoughts. And in that way, it doesn't feel empty. It feels full of things we usually drown out with noise. Have you ever tried sitting in total silence just to see what surfaces? Often, what we hear in silence isn't peace, it's memory, regret, hopes, worries. That's why silence can be frightening. Not because it hides things, but because it reveals what we've hidden from ourselves. Think of the times in life when silence made things feel more real. When someone you love didn't reply. When a message was left unread. When a doctor paused before speaking. That kind of silence is heavier than words. It speaks in feeling. This dome seems to work in the same way. It doesn't need to explain itself. It just invites you to listen not to sound, but to what's inside you. And maybe that's the strangest part. In a world where we chase answers and fill every second with sound music, podcasts, voices, screens, this one place asks nothing of you but stillness. No performance, no explanation, just being. The few who've spent more than a few minutes inside described the silence as transformative. Some feel calm, others feel anxious. A few even say they hear faint sounds, not from outside, but from within. The beat of their own blood, the rhythm of thought, the shape of emotion. It's like hearing yourself for the first time. Have you ever had a moment like that, where something so quiet became unforgettable? Maybe standing at the edge of a mountain, or in a room after everyone left, or staring at someone you miss across a crowd. These moments don't shout, they whisper, but they stay. That's the feeling this dome leaves behind. Not mystery in the sense of unsolved puzzles, but mystery in the quiet presence of something that refuses to be understood. Something that just is. And perhaps that's what we need more of. Not more noise, but places real or imagined where silence can Hold us gently, without judgment. If this kind of story helps you pause, breathe, and think, consider subscribing. We'll keep exploring places that speak without sound. And if you've ever found yourself in a silence that said more than words ever could, share it in the comments. Maybe we're all carrying a quiet dome inside us, waiting to be heard. Breathing cave mouth. Have you ever felt a place breathe, as if the walls themselves were alive and inhaled along with you? Maybe a great old tree whose leaves rustle in a rhythm that feels almost like a heartbeat, or an old wooden house that groans and shifts in a way that reminds you of a living thing. Imagine standing before the entrance of an ancient temple hewn into the side of a cliff, and hearing it softly draw air in, then let it go, just as you do, in a slow, steady rhythm, even when the wind is perfectly still. That is exactly what people experienced at the breathing cave mouth, a natural doorway so precisely shaped that it seems to inhale and exhale, whispering in and out like a giant's lungs. Scientists first blamed it on wind currents, but their instruments registered no breeze. They sealed off external airflow, and still the cave continued its gentle breath, as if it were alive. If you've ever been in a place where time seemed to slow, where the world felt larger yet strangely intimate, or where you felt the very earth under your feet pulse with a hidden life, please share where you are in the comments below. Your stories bind us together in moments of wonder, and if you find calm in exploring life's quiet mysteries, please give this video a like and subscribe before we descend into the cave's gentle rhythm. The origin of the breathing cave mouth is lost in time, but local villagers speak of it with reverence, calling it the Temple of Living Stone. They say ancestors built altars inside, offering flowers and water at dawn, trusting the cave's breath to carry their prayers into the mountain's heart. Visitors describe the air at the mouth as cool and clean, yet never still. It moves in and out as if something deep within the rock is alive. You can stand in front of it for minutes longer than you think possible, and feel the slow rise and fall of pressure against your chest, a sensation so subtle you might mistake it for your own breath if you weren't listening closely. It's like the quiet of a library, where every sound seems magnified by its near absence. Our lungs work without thought, our hearts beat without question. But this cave asks us to notice the rhythms we usually ignore. In our everyday lives, we encounter small echoes of this phenomenon. A gentle breeze that flows into a closed window, just as you're leafing through a book, a window left ajar without explanation, or the way a busy city sidewalk falls silent when a train rumbles past overhead. We feel these shifts in pressure, even when the air itself is still. They remind us that the world around us is alive with motion, even when it appears calm. But what happens when that motion seems to come from the world itself, rather than the air or our own movements? That's the paradox that drew scientists here, hoping to explain the unexplainable. Researchers installed anemometers, sealed the entrance, even built double doors to isolate the cave from outside air. In each test, the breathing continued. The cave seemed to inhale as the doors closed, and exhale as they opened, as if it knew. Some tried to replicate the effect in the lab by heating and cooling rock to induce micro-expansions, but nothing matched the gentle, human-like rhythm of the cave's own pulse. That inspired a new line of thinking. Perhaps the cave's temperature gradient, humidity, and the slow seep of groundwater combine in a way we don't yet fully understand. Yet even that theory feels incomplete, like trying to describe a melody by naming the notes but missing the feeling it gives you. There is beauty in that unfinished feeling, just as there is comfort in the steady motion of breathing itself. When we sit quietly, paying attention to our own breaths, we anchor ourselves in the present. Meditation teachers guide us to breathe in, breathe out, and simply observe the rise and fall of our chest. It calms our racing minds and reminds us that we are alive. The kavif, a cave, can be called, that seems to offer the same gift on a grand scale, to notice, to feel, to return to awareness of living in relationships. We often talk past each other, our words lost in the noise of everything else. But a simple question like "Are you breathing?" can bring us back together in a shared moment. It doesn't require 1,000 words, just presence. That's what the breathing cave mouth silently teaches. It doesn't shout or demand attention with drama. It whispers, and if you listen, you tune into something deeper than conversation, the living world's quiet song. When you think about belief, it often comes down to whether you trust your senses and your mind. The cave challenges us to trust what we feel even when our tools deny it. It asks us to consider that there may be layers of reality our instruments can't register, realms we sense directly but can't measure. That resonates in mental health, where professionals encourage people to trust their own experiences, even if they can't be proven to others. A feeling of sadness, anxiety, or peace isn't less valid because it escapes data. It's real in its own quiet way. Some technologists are now trying to mimic the cave's effect in audio, visual installations to help people relax. They build rooms that pulse with gentle air pressure changes, synced to soft lights, but none match the cave's natural, imperfect, yet gentle rhythm. It reminds us that nature's designs, shaped by countless factors over millennia, a depth we are only beginning to learn from, and that sometimes the best technology is the technology we find, not the technology we build. As the sun sets and the world settles, the breathing cave mouth seems to draw in the last light, exhale the night air, and prepare for another cycle. Visitors often describe the experience as a form of soft communion with the earth, a moment when the boundary between human life and rock life feels to blur, and for a few minutes they stand in awe, unburdened by the need to understand or explain, simply content to feel. If this story moved you, please share your own moments of quiet wonder in the comments. Have you ever felt a place breathe with you? Where were you, and what did it feel like? Your story might comfort someone else who needs to know they're not alone in experiencing the world's gentle mysteries. And if you believe in the power of calm, thoughtful exploration, hit the like button and subscribe for more journeys like this one. Because sometimes the most powerful truths arrive not in words, but in the silent rhythm of something larger breathing beside us. Staircase to nowhere. Have you ever pursued a goal so diligently, climbed every step in front of you, only to find the path ends in mid-no destination? No railing, no promise of what comes next. Imagine reaching the top of a 90-foot stone staircase carved into a mountainside, each step perfectly even, each handrail polished by centuries of hands, and then discovering you've arrived at nothing. No platform, no door, no balcony, just the air of a steep cliff stretching out before you. That is the paradox of the staircase to nowhere, an architectural marvel that rises with meticulous precision yet leads to no place a human can safely stand. Visitors describe the experience as both awe-inspiring and unsettling. The quiet confidence of the builders, matched by the sudden emptiness at the summit. If you've ever felt that unexpected halt in your own life when a plan you poured your energy into just stopped. Share your story in the comments below and tell us where you're watching from. Your experiences remind us how universal it is to face a sudden void. And if you find calm curiosity in exploring these odd corners of history, please like this video and subscribe for more gentle journeys. When explorers first encountered the staircase, they expected to find a palace or temple tucked at the top, perhaps a shrine or a lookout point. Instead, they emerged onto a narrow ledge carved into the cliff face, barely wider than the stairs themselves, with only sky ahead and a sheer drop below. The stone was smooth, without chips or erosion, as if the builders knew no one would ever stand there for long. Yet they took care to polish each riser, to sculpt each tread with exacting skill. No mortar fills the seams. The stones lock together in gravity-defying harmony. Damage from earthquakes and weather that shattered nearby walls left this staircase untouched, as if a protective reverence surrounds it. It seems to say, this is as far as you need to climb. In our own lives, we often race toward peaks, promotions, relationships, accomplishments only to find the summit less satisfying than we imagined. Think of studying for exams, preparing for a big presentation, or saving for a long-awaited trip. The anticipation builds with every step, momentum carries you forward, and then you reach the end, and it's quiet. The excitement fades, and you wonder, is this it? We call it post-achievement letdown. It's a natural part of the human experience. In that moment, the staircase to nowhere feels familiar, a reminder that not every climb leads to a broad vista or clear reward. Sometimes reaching the top is the reward, sometimes standing in the void teaches us more than standing on a throne ever could. Local legends tell of a secret purpose for the staircase. Some say it was built as a test for pilgrims only, those who recognized the staircases end as the true destination would pass the trial of humility. Others whisper it was a rite of passage, climb, face the abyss, and realize that the journey itself transforms you more than any goal. In psychology, we learn that often the process of working toward something reshapes our identity. We grow through challenges, not just by achieving a final outcome. A mantra in therapy is focus on progress, not perfection, because when we fixate on an endpoint, we risk feeling lost when we arrive. The staircase to nowhere embodies that lesson in stone. Architects and engineers have studied the site, seeking clues to its construction. They mapped the staircase down to the smallest millimeter, and still can't agree on how the builders achieved such precision without modern tools. Hypotheses include stone chisels, guided by simple leveling devices, or mirrors reflecting the sun to measure angles. Yet no written record exists to explain their methods. It's as if the builders deliberately left no instructions, trusting the structure itself to convey its meaning. In today's world, we rely heavily on documentation, blueprints, and data. We believe that knowledge must be written down to survive. But sometimes, knowledge survives most powerfully in the form of an unanswered question, something that invites curiosity and experimentation across generations. The staircase also touches on belief. For many who climb it, reaching the top becomes a meditative act. Each step demands focus. The narrow width and steep grade make misstep risky. Climbers learn to breathe steadily, to place one foot deliberately in front of the other, and to let go of distracting thoughts. That kind of mindfulness echoes in modern meditation practices, where walking meditation is a path to calm the mind. The staircase offers a more extreme version. moving meditation balanced at the edge of emptiness. It reminds us that sometimes the path is more sacred than the perch. Language itself carries a paradox here. We speak of summits and peaks. As goals, we encourage people to reach new heights and climb ladders of success. But what if the highest achievement lies in accepting the void rather than conquering it? The staircase asks us to consider new metaphors, walk the stairway of questions, embrace the end as a beginning, find center in the open air of uncertainty. When we shift our language, we shift our relationship to our goals. We can learn to see endings not as failures, but as invitations to new journeys. In mental health, this lesson can be life-saving. People often feel despair when they fall short of an ideal. But if they understand that reaching an endpoint, even an empty one, can bring insight and completeness, they may release the pressure to do more. They can find peace in the journey itself. The staircase to nowhere becomes a metaphor for self-compassion, teaching us that we don't always need a destination to feel whole. Even AI researchers can reflect on this site. They build systems that optimize for a reward, function maximizing clicks, accuracy, or profit. But what happens when the system reaches its programmed maximum? Does it shut down? Does it get repurposed? The staircase suggests a more humane approach. Build systems with intrinsic value in the process. Value in the act of climbing the problem space, not just in the endpoint. In that way, machines and humans alike can learn to appreciate the void as a space for reflection and growth. At sunset, the staircase casts a delicate shadow that stretches down the mountainside, pointing back toward the starting point. It's as if the structure gently suggests, when you climb to the end, look back, see how far you've come. Standing at the top, you see the valley below and realize that every step, every moment of focus and breath has shaped you. And that realization can feel like arriving at a grand destination, even though there's no physical structure to stand on. Sometimes, the void at the end of the path is the only thing that can reflect our own presence fully. If this story made you pause, consider sharing your moments of reaching an unexpected end on what you learned there. Comment with your thoughts, your locations, your experiences. And if you believe that quiet reflections on mystery still have a place in our day, please like this video and subscribe. Together, we'll keep exploring these gentle puzzle staircases to nowhere. Rooms without gravity, domes of silent sand, find meaning in the gaps between answers. Because in those gaps, we often find the questions that teach us most about ourselves. Time-locked door. Have you ever stood before something that felt like it was waiting, not just for anyone, but for you? Yet no matter what you did, it wouldn't move. Like a person who almost speaks, a call you expect but never comes, or a letter that never arrives. Imagine walking through an ancient ruin, overgrown with vines and thyme, and finding a smooth stone door carved perfectly into the mountain, with no hinges, no lock, and no visible way to open it. And yet, as you approach, you feel a weight in the air, as though the doorway is more than stone. It feels like memory itself has gathered there, held tight like breath waiting to be exhaled. That's the strange and quiet mystery of the time-locked door. A sealed gate that local legend says opens only once every 1,000 years. The stone around it bears strange patterns, but most haunting are the scratch marks, fresh ones etched near the edges, as if someone recently tried to get in, someone who believed the time had come. If you've ever been in a place that felt like it was holding a secret just for you, or had a moment where the world seemed to pause for something important you couldn't name, tell us in the comments where it happened, and what it felt like. And if you enjoy gently walking through mysteries like this one, give this video a like and subscribe, because sometimes the stories that don't open right away are the ones that stay with us the longest. The door sits at the back of an old temple hidden in a quiet valley. No path leads directly to it. It appears only after a long walk through the woods, past broken pillars and cracked statues. Unlike other doors, this one has no handle, no keyhole, no sign of age. It doesn't creak or crumble. It simply waits. People who have visited describe a strange sense of pressure, like standing near a storm that hasn't yet broken. Not dangerous, just charged. Some say the air hums slightly near the stone. Others feel a gentle warmth. Everyone agrees, though, that it doesn't feel like just a wall. It feels like a moment paused in time. Scientists have studied the structure and found nothing remarkable in terms of material, just stone. But the stone is cooler than the air around it. It doesn't collect dust. It doesn't reflect light the same way the rest of the temple does. Whatever its purpose, the door resists more than just opening. It resists explanation. In everyday life, we often encounter our own time-locked doors. Think about those parts of ourselves that won't open, no matter how hard we try, memories we aren't ready to face, forgiveness we struggle to give, or dreams that seem unreachable. We tell ourselves we'll deal with them when the time is right, and maybe that time is once in 1,000 days or years. We all carry sealed spaces within us, shaped by experience, belief, fear, and hope. And when we come close to them, even if they don't open, we feel something stir like a whisper behind the door. The scratches near the ancient gate remind us that someone before us, maybe someone like us, tried. They wanted to know what was hidden. Maybe they believed something waited on the other side. Maybe they thought they were ready. The legend says the door was sealed by a wise builder who understood time not as hours or years, but as a cycle of readiness. It would only open when the world needed it most, when a certain pattern aligned in the stars, or when someone arrived who didn't want to open it for themselves, but for others. That kind of story is simple, but powerful, because deep down, we all wonder what we're meant for. Are we climbing the steps of life to reach something? Or are we simply passing by doors we're not meant to open yet? In relationships, sometimes we meet people who open something in us gently, kindly, without force. And sometimes we meet people who scratch at our edges, trying to force an answer we're not ready to give. The difference matters. Just as the door cannot be opened by pressure, neither can the heart. In language, we say things like it's not the right time, or that moment hasn't come yet. These phrases echo the same idea, that certain things unfold only when they're supposed to. No faster, no slower. Even in mental health, healing is not a straight road. Some breakthroughs take years. Some never come the way we expect. But one day, something shifts. A door opens not because we forced it, but because we were finally ready to walk through. And sometimes, all we need is the patience to wait by that door and listen. Engineers and historians have tried everything to open the time-locked door. They've tapped it with sonar, scanned it with radar, even measured tiny shifts in temperature over the course of decades. But it remains unmoved. It doesn't resist like a puzzle. It simply doesn't respond, as if it knows the question isn't right yet. That has led some people to suggest the door responds not to tools, but to intent. A strange idea, yes, but one that mirrors how we understand personal growth. No amount of tools or effort will unlock a part of ourselves that isn't ready. but quiet presence, trust, and patience can open even the most sealed places in time. In the field of AI, there's a similar paradox. Machines can be programmed to respond, but true understanding, the kind that comes from waiting and noticing patterns over time, remains a human strength. An AI might scan the door 1,000,000 times, but a human might be the only one who waits in silence long enough to feel when the time is right. That blend of logic and feeling is something we still carry. And maybe that's what the door is really about, not the stone, but the waiting. People who visit often leave small gifts at its base: a flower, a note, a drawing, or just a touch of the hand, as if to say, I was here, I believed, I waited. And that simple act transforms the door into something more than stone. It becomes a mirror for each person who finds it. What we want from it often tells us what we're missing. If we want answers, maybe we feel lost. If we want to open it for someone else, maybe we're hoping to heal. And if we simply sit beside it in peace, maybe we've already found what we came for. So the time-locked door stands as it always has, quiet, whole, waiting. Maybe it will open tomorrow, maybe in 100 years, or maybe it already has, but only for someone who never needed to tell the world what they saw. If this story stirred something in you, tell us your own locked door moments. Was it a person, a place, a time in your life that felt sealed but important? Your story might be the key for someone else watching. And if you find comfort in exploring the spaces between myth and meaning, give this video a like and subscribe for more calm journeys like this, because sometimes the doors that never open are the ones that lead us inward, and in that quiet space, we discover something just as rare as 1,000-year secret. We discover our own readiness. Whispering archway. Have you ever tried whispering someone's name into the wind, only to wonder where your voice goes when no one hears it? Imagine standing in a quiet ancient courtyard surrounded by tall stone arches, each carved with symbols so old they feel more like feelings than language. At the very center, there's a small circle marked into the ground, worn smooth by the feet of those who have stood there before. Locals say if you step into that circle and whisper, your voice doesn't stay with you. Instead, it travels, softly and clearly, across vast distances through the arches, heard only by someone standing in the right place to receive it. No microphone, no wires, no tricks, just stone and silence, and a voice that knows where it's meant to go. And here's the strange part: it only works if you're standing in the exact center. Not near it, not beside it, but right in the middle. Otherwise, the arches remain still and empty, as if they're asleep. Have you ever visited a place where sound felt alive, where your own voice seemed to stretch farther than usual, like in a cathedral, a cave, or a quiet alley at night? Tell us in the comments what it felt like. And if you enjoy stories that make silence feel full of meaning, please like this video and subscribe. It helps keep these gentle journeys alive. Now, picture yourself stepping into that circle, not to shout or speak loudly, but to share something soft, like a memory or a hope. The stone beneath your feet seems ordinary, but the moment you begin to speak, your words are lifted and carried by the air, not forcefully, but carefully, like a letter placed into unseen hands. Those who've heard this phenomenon describe it as a whisper carried by trust, barely louder than breath, yet somehow clear across the courtyard. It doesn't echo like sound in a tunnel or bounce off surfaces like a game of ping pong. It glides, calm, clean, direct, and strangely, it only works when what's spoken is quiet. Loud voices don't travel through the archway. Screams vanish. But soft, honest whispers move like water, even across great space. In life, we often think power is in loudness. Who shouts the most in a meeting, who makes the biggest entrance, who takes up the most space. But the whispering archway teaches something different. Sometimes, quiet things are heard more deeply than loud ones. Think about relationships. The most powerful words, "I'm sorry, I understand, I'm here," are often whispered. You don't need to scream love to make someone feel it. Just as, in this archway, it's not the volume, but the presence that matters. That same principle echoes in belief systems, where faith often moves silently through generations, not by force, but through gentle understanding. Even in mental health, it's not the loud panic or chaos that asks for the most attention. The quiet sadness, the still ache that wants to be acknowledged. The whispering archway becomes a symbol of these things. A reminder that just because something is quiet doesn't mean it isn't strong. People have tried to measure the effect with microphones, scanners, even AI audio trackers. But the phenomenon only works for humans, standing in the right places, speaking softly with intent. It refuses to perform for machines, which raises questions, not just about physics, but about presence. Maybe the arch responds not to sound waves, but to emotion, like how we sometimes feel someone's voice, even when we can't explain how. Imagine someone you once cared about whispering your name. The sound wouldn't need to be loud. It would reach you anyway, because meaning travels farther than noise. In language, whispers carry intimacy, secrets, prayers. They're often the things we're scared to say out loud, or the things too sacred to shout. The whispering archway, then, becomes more than a trick of sound. It becomes a space where honesty is rewarded, a kind of sacred zone where only truth gets through. Maybe that's why people return to it year after year, to whisper hopes into the stone and trust that someone, somewhere, hears them. Just as you may be hearing this story now, even though it was told quietly, with calm words and simple rhythm. And maybe that's the lesson the arch wants us to learn, that what matters most doesn't always need to be loud. It just needs to be real. So if you've ever had a moment where something small changed everything, where a whisper mattered more than a shout, or where you felt heard without making a sound, tell us about it, because your story might echo farther than you think. And if you'd like to hear more gentle mysteries like this one, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe. Not for the noise, but for the quiet spaces in between, where the truest voices live. Backwards River Temple. Have you ever watched a river flow and felt the current beneath your feet, guiding you forward as if life itself pushes you onward, only to encounter a stretch of water that seems to choose its own path, moving defying everything you understand about rivers and gravity? That is exactly what travelers discovered at a remote stone temple nestled on a bend of an otherwise ordinary river, a temple whose surrounding waters flow in perfect reverse, not just in a small eddy, but for dozens of yards on each side, looping back toward its source as calmly as if someone flipped a switch on nature itself. Locals speak of the Backwards River Temple in hushed tones, saying the reversed flow began the day the first stones were laid in honor of a forgotten deity, and that the effect has never wavered, even through floods and droughts. If you've ever faced a situation where everything moved against you, like trying to walk against a strong wind, or finding your day unraveling no matter how carefully you plan, share your story in the comments below and tell us where you are. These shared moments of gentle struggle remind us we're not alone in feeling the current pull backward. And if the idea of silent marvels drifting through forgotten history brings you calm curiosity, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can drift with us through more soft, strange wonders. When scientists first heard of a river that flows upstream around a temple, they chalked it up to optical illusion or hidden geological shifts, perhaps an underground spring pushing water back, or the shape of the riverbed creating a local reversal. But on careful measurement, none of those explanations fit. Doppler readings showed the flow moving upstream at a steady rate of a few inches per second. Water samples taken at different points showed no change in temperature, salinity, or pressure that might explain the odd reversal. It was as if the river simply chose to obey the temple's presence. Fishermen who ply these waters as part of their daily routine tell stories of casting nets downstream, only to see their lines pull them back toward shore without any wind or current they can feel. That straightens your spine in the way certain moments do, like hearing your name in a crowded room or sensing a long-lost friend's presence before they speak. It makes you pause, noticing the normally unnoticed. And perhaps that pause is exactly what the ancient builders intended. Imagine, for a moment, how often in life we follow currents we don't question routine, habit, obligation, ever asking where we really want to go. Then, every so often, something appears that forces us to reconsider the direction we've always taken. It might be a gentle suggestion, a new perspective, or a moment of stillness that shows us we've been drifting along without awareness. The backwards river temple offers that suggestion. It shows that even the most powerful forces, gravity, water, time, can bend to purpose when shaped by intention. It invites us to look at our own currents. Are we flowing toward what matters, or simply following the stream because it's easiest? In everyday life, we feel similar paradoxes. Think of a relationship where every step forward seems followed by a step back, arguments that circle, misunderstandings that repeat, progress that feels undone, or a habit you try to break, only to find yourself drawn right back into it. In therapy, we call that a cycle, and we learn that breaking it often requires awareness and intentional change, not force. Similarly, at the temple, no amount of paddling or prodding can overcome the backward current. The water simply refuses to go where it's expected, and instead follows the path shaped by something deeper, a memorial, a prayer, an ancient wish carved in stone. That's a beautiful lesson. Some changes can't be forced, only invited through shifts in shape and intention. Ancient stories tell of a builder who carried heavy stones to the river's edge, laying each one by hand, pausing at each placement to whisper a blessing. He believed that water carried prayers, and that by guiding the stones in a perfect circle, he could teach the river to carry its own prayer back upstream to its source. Some say that source was a sacred spring at the top of the valley, and that the spring itself still hears and responds. Others think the true source was human intention, the builder's hope, faith, and dedication. We see this echoed in our own lives when a kind word returns to us unexpectedly, or a small act of generosity flows back with interest. It reminds us that kindness can reverse the direction of anger or despair, just as the temple reverses the river's course. The temple stones themselves are etched with faint, simple spirals, waves, and hands reaching both upstream and downstreams, suggesting a harmony between forward and backward, giving and receiving, moving and resting. It's as though the builders wanted to capture the idea that life is not a straight arrow but a continual exchange. They understood something modern psychology confirms. Resilience often involves turning toward stresses and learning to flow with them, rather than fighting against them. It also mirrors the concept of yin and yang, where opposites balance each other. Upstream flow here isn't unnatural, it's balance, it's response. It's the river finding its own path in the patterns carved for it. Even technology today tries to harness backward flow's regenerative braking in electric cars, reverse osmosis for clean water, even algorithms that learn from their own errors. But nothing affords the same poetic wonder as a river that chooses to reverse itself for the sake of a temple. It's a natural phenomenon shaped by culture, faith, and the invisible currents of human intent. It reminds us that sometimes the oldest ideas can be the most advanced, that belief and action combined can shape reality in ways science only begins to understand. In mental health, we learn that recovery is not a straight line. People often describe progress as 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But what if those backward steps are not regressions, but integral parts of the journey, moments to gather strength, reassess, and flow in a new direction? The backwards river temple teaches us to welcome the backward flow as part of the whole, not as a problem to fix. That shift in perspective can be healing. It allows us to rest when moving forward feels too hard, knowing the current will carry us again when we're ready. People who visit the temple often leave small tokens on its shore, flowers, stones, even notes, trusting that the river will carry them back to the source, or sometimes back to someone who needs them downstream. There's a quiet practice in that, a gentle hope that what we release into life, even when it moves away from us, may find its way back in surprising forms. It's a reminder that letting go is not losing. It's planting seeds upstream. If this story made you think of your own cycles of currents you've followed or ones you've resisted, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Where have you felt the pull backward, only to discover a new path forward? And if you believe in calm explorations of the world's quiet wonders, give this video a like and subscribe for more. Because life's currents can surprise us, and sometimes the places where we least expect it hold the lessons we need most. The backwards river temple isn't just a marvel of stone and water, it's a mirror for our own flowing lives, showing us that even a river can reverse its course when guided by faith, patience, and intention. Unmelting ice pillar. Have you ever touched something so cold in a place so warm it felt like holding a piece of another world? Imagine walking through a silent desert at midday, the sun like a furnace above, and finding, standing before you, a column of ice stool, still and unmoving. It holds its shape effortlessly. No signs of melting, no puddles at its base, nothing. That is the wonder of the unmelting ice pillar, a frozen column that endures year-round, untouched by the heat swirling around it. Explorers who've seen it say it looks like a candle made of diamond, clear in places, opaque in others, catching the glare of the sun even as it holds its breath. The moment you walk past it, you feel the temperature drop, as if the pillar is breathing cold. Then you realize the air itself seems quieter, still, and not just because it's hot outside, but because this ice has stolen the silence too. If you've ever encountered something fragile but unbroken, a heart in pain that still hopes, or a memory you carry that never fades, share that memory below. It reminds us we carry our own ice pillars inside us sometimes. And if you find calm in exploring these gentle mysteries, please like this video and subscribe so we can walk through more of them together. The first researchers to document the pillar were on a geological survey. They were measuring sand dunes and dust devils, and then they found it standing near an ancient volcanic vent. They noticed the air around it was slightly damp and cool enough to fog their glasses. But still, the pillar remained solid. They built a ring of thermometers around it and watched for an hour. The outside air reached 42 Celsius, but at the base of the pillar it was -2. Inside the ice, even colder. They expected the pillar to collapse within minutes, but it stayed upright, untouched, as if protected by some unseen hand. They stayed for days, even weeks, thinking a hidden spring or a volcanic chill might explain it. Nothing ever did. No water flowed from the ground. No caves entered behind it. Just the pillar standing alone, silent and strong. Have you ever been in a moment of emotional heat stress, pressure, expectation and found a quiet place inside? Yourself that didn't melt? A place where calm stayed despite the storm. That's what the ice pillar represents. In our daily lives, we melt under stress all the time. We lose sleep, patience, hope. We want to be firm, unchanging, but we often find ourselves softening, giving away pieces of our boundaries under pressure. Yet the pillar does, the impossibly stays whole, and it doesn't scream strength. It doesn't flex. It stands in uncomplicated dignity. Legends tell of a monk who walked the desert to find this stone chamber. He was said to be called the one who breathed fire. He planted the first seed of Isum. Say he filled the vent with cold water during a winter's night. Others say he whispered prayers into the rocks so that the desert air would freeze around the column. No one knows, but after that night, the pillar appeared, and it returned every year, even after centuries of sandstorms, drought, and heat waves. People built a simple shrine around it, placing clay bowls at its base to collect water as it sublimated overnight, though often there was none. Still, they left the bowls as a gesture not to take what was not theirs. It was enough to stand near the pillar and feel your breath slow, your mind fall quiet. That story echoes how we treat memories or parts of ourselves we'd rather leave frozen. Maybe a pain we can't yet process, a loss we carry that hasn't melted into acceptance, or a hope we guard carefully. We build our own little shrines around these parts, journals, rituals, silent walks. We collect what we can from them, little droplets of understanding, but mostly we do our best to let them be, not to push them to unfold before we're ready. The pillar asks us to honor that stillness, that quiet presence. Over time, researchers studied the ice's structure. They found air bubbles trapped in the crystal, forming patterns like rings in a tree or lines on an ancient map. Each bubble held little secret specks of dust, traces of ancient volcanic ash, hints of seasons long past. In that way, the ice is a record, a memory keeper. That makes it even more precious. Not just cold and alone in the desert, but full of stories, waiting quietly in each frozen breath. It reminds me of how we carry our own hidden histories. Trauma, joy, love, they can freeze into our bones. Unseen, but never fully gone. And if we look closely, we might find the bubbles of ourselves trapped inside. In modern life, we design climate-controlled buildings to fight heat. We use technology to regulate temperature so that nothing warms or cools without us. But the pillar reminds us that nature has its own systems, witnessed, perhaps prompted, but not controlled. If the monk or the builders did play a part, they did it gently. They didn't try to overpower the sun. They worked with time, with stillness, with devotion, and the desert listened. That's a lesson about humility, about how real power often comes not from force, but from quiet consistency and respect for what is greater than us. Even AI researchers studying anomaly detection say that some systems need time and subtlety to reveal unexpected patterns. Quick measurements and brute force algorithms miss the slow changes. The ice pillar appears slowly, melts back slowly, not at all recording every fold of time in its ice crystal rings. It's not a glitch, it's a design. And it invites us to ask, what are the slow changes in our minds, in our hearts, in our relationships, that deserve time to form quietly before they speak? Mental health professionals encourage people to be gentle with themselves, to give their hearts time to heal, rather than demanding immediate recovery. That's exactly what this ice pillar embodies. Standing in the heat and honoring stillness is a radical act. It's an act of self-trust, of faith in unspoken processes, of believing that some parts of ourselves, our grief, our hope, our growth don't need to thaw before they can begin to teach us. As night falls on the desert, the pillar reflects the moon's light. It flashes in deep silver. Visitors say, it looks like a star reaching toward Earth, a single point of clarity in an ocean of shadow and sand. And in the chill around it, in the quiet of its presence, you can feel how something can exist that doesn't belong us in a desert. Sunlight in your heart, stillness in the storm, and still be precisely where it's meant to be. If this story touched the part of you that holds something in quiet strength, something unmelted yet warm, please share a memory or moment below. Where are you? What part of your heart feels like an ice pillar that doesn't thaw? It might be the permission. Someone else needs to stand in their own quiet resilience. And if you believe in gentle mysteries that calm the mind and soothe the soul, please like this video and subscribe. We'll keep exploring places and stories that exist in gentle paradox, because sometimes being still under the sun is the bravest thing we can do. Endless corridor room. Have you ever walked into a space that felt familiar at first, like the hallway in your own home, but then somehow unfolded differently depending on who is with you or how you enter? That's the phenomenon experienced in the endless corridor room, a quiet chamber hidden beneath an old monastery, where stepping through its threshold brings a startling surprise. If you enter alone, you see a single hallway stretching into gentle darkness. But if you walk in with another person, suddenly there are two identical corridors, branching symmetrically, each moving deeper into silence. It's as if the room reads who you are and remaps itself, shifting not in structure but in perception. Strange, yes, but also strangely peaceful, like a place that adapts to you and the one beside you. If you've ever shared a moment in a space that suddenly felt doubled by someone else walking a path with a friend in the rain, remembering a quiet song that blooms with two voices, share your memory in the comments below, along with where you are watching from. These moments remind us of how our experience of the world is shaped by connection, even down to the walls around us. And if you love exploring soft mysteries that gently shift our sense of reality, please like this video and subscribe so we can keep wandering through spaces like this together. The endless corridor room has simple walls of rough, weathered stone and a low ceiling pressed softly overhead. Unlit torches sit at intervals, unlit because the chamber is watched mostly in silence. No lights flicker here, no sound echoes, and yet the harm caused by darkness feels minimal, as if the walls themselves hold a calm presence. When a single visitor enters, the hallway appears straight and gentle, each step guided by memory, footstep after footstep. The corridor deepens and then just stops, like a book reaching its final page. But when two people pass the threshold at once, the corridor splits in two directions, one to the left, another to the right, each hallway with exactly the same length and angle, lit by hidden recesses of stone that glow warmth at the edges. Each corridor feels private and complete. Each invites exploration, until both travelers notice and step in and find themselves facing opposing yet matching paths. It feels uncanny, like gravity changing its mind underfoot. This spatial mystery extends beyond curiosity, brings a quiet lesson about how we see the world together. We often think a room, a memory, or a feeling is fixed. But the moment someone else joins us, it ripples. A conversation remembered by two people often branches in different directions. A family dinner yields two distinct stories of the same moment. That branching corridor is a symbol for how relationships shape our reality. It shows us that a path isn't just about where it ends, it's about who walks beside us. Researchers who studied the chamber asked visitors to guide them while blindfolded, to remove sight from the equation. Even then, people described feeling to corridors, their hands brushing cold stone walls in different directions. Empty-handed psychometric tests followed, ruling out biases or suggestion. The ones who entered alone reported calm, singular awareness. Paired visitors reported a gentle doubling of space. Each pathway felt real. Each step felt separate. The room itself doesn't move, but perception, like water in a still pool, ripples. It reshapes itself around companions. Think of the last time you shared a sunset with someone. The light shifts, the colors feel deeper. Even the air tastes different. That happens not because the sun changed, but because the presence changed. Our minds record spaces not as hollow shells, but as living fields where others add depth, texture, even echo. The endless corridor room makes that visibly literally, giving each person corridors to walk with, while preserving perfect symmetry. It honors individual experience without collapsing into solitude or togetherness alone in daily life. We often move through our routines alone or crowd them with too many voices. We forget that we carry others with us, even when we're alone, and that they carry us when we're together. In therapy, this connects to something called intersubjectivity, the shared space we co-create with others, where emotion, memory, and presence intermingle. The corridor room dramatizes it for all to see. Space is not empty. It carries what we bring with us, the people, emotions, and stories we hold. Even language hints at this shift. We speak of walking my own path, or finding our way together. We often mean similar things, paths shaped not just by steps, but by companions. The corridor room seems to understand that. It gives each person a path that mirrors their presence, alone and together, quietly acknowledging that our experience of space and life's relational. Emotionally, the corridor can feel haunted or sacred, depending on how you sense your partner's presence. In relationships, we say, I feel like we're walking different paths together. We speak of shared dreams that diverge, or parallel lives lived side by side. The corridor room brings this subtle pull into the present moment. It offers a place to walk apart while standing together, where separation doesn't divide, and presence deepens perception. In technology and AI, designers talk about shared reality augmented experiences that change when multiple users enter. The corridor room predates that concept by millennia, but it gestures at a similar complexity, a structure that adapts to individual and shared experience, not toggled by code, but by presence itself. It reminds us that design is not just about shapes and materials, but about the human heart's ability to make space come alive. Mental health insights also connect. People who feel isolated often describe their environment flat and empty. When seen, understood, or joined, environments flicker with meaning and texture. The corridor room literalizes that healing presence. Standing alone feels still. Standing together feels full. And walking both ways becomes a practice in carrying solitude and company at the same time. When visitors leave, they often walk back down and exit through the same door. Some step back alone, some step together. And then they speak about the twin corridors or the singular one. But rarely do they argue about what happened. Instead, they share versions, feeling heard, feeling seen, feeling whole. Because the room offers both experience and reflection, and invites acceptance of difference and similarity. This room stands as a reminder, even in silence. Even in dark stone, space breathes with companionship. It shifts not in concrete, but in consciousness. And maybe that's the greatest mystery of all, not the architecture, but the architecture of attention. Not the stone, but the mind. And as we walk our own corridors through rooms, through seasons, through relationships we remember that presence changes everything. If this story stirred something inside you, an echo of a moment where space felt different with someone by your side, please share it below. The world grows a little larger when we invite others to walk with us. And if you believe in gentle journeys through quiet wonders, give this video a like and subscribe to keep wandering with us. Because in the endless rooms between walls, between hearts, between thoughts, we discover connection at every turn. Frozen shadow pillar. Have you ever watched your own shadow slowly stretch and shrink as the day passes, only to suddenly find it unmoving, locked in a single shape, even while the sun marches across the sky? That's the peculiar magic of the frozen shadow pillar, a solitary stone column standing near an open plaza in an ancient site. During specific hours of daylight, it casts a perfect shadow, sharp and clear. But unlike any other object under the sun, that shadow refuses to shift. With the sun's movement, it stays fixed in place, as if caught in time, while everything else around it plants. People, the warmth on your skin changes with the shifting light. It's a quiet mystery that makes you pause and feel the world itself bending around one. Still moment. Have you ever felt life slow down like that when a song hits just right, or when someone looks at you and time softens for a moment? If so, share your story in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. These shared moments of calm remind us we're all part of something subtle and wide. And if you find peace in exploring gentle mysteries like this, please give this video a like and subscribe, so we can wander through more soft wonders together. Visitors first noticed the pillar when archaeologists set up landscape surveys under the midday sun and found a shadow that didn't move, no matter where they measured. The shadow stayed anchored to the same spot on the ground. They tracked the sun's path, recalibrated their instruments, even removed nearby stones and foliage to be sure nothing else blocked the light, and still, the shadow remained frozen. Imagine standing there, expecting the shadow to follow you, or shift with the light, and nothing happens. It makes you feel ironically heavier, as if stillness carries its own weight. There's something in us that reaches for movement even when we just want to be calm. But this shadow tells us sometimes stillness is its own magic. Think of moments in life that feel suspended, waiting for news, listening to quiet music, staring at the sky before rain starts. In those pauses, time doesn't stop. It becomes deep. It lets us breathe with presence. Psychologists call it mindfulness when our attention centers on the moment, not racing forward. The shadow pillar makes mindfulness visible and anchor in the passage of hours. Ancient storytellers say the pillar was part of a test. People would stand with loved ones and watch as the world around them moved. But the shadows stayed still. Feel togetherness, the test said, even when light and time shift outside. Like relationships, rooted in love but tested by seasons. The pillar reminds us that connection can stay constant even when everything else changes. It's a beautiful paradox in stone. Scientists have tried to recreate the effect with mirrors, lenses, uneven surfaces, even hidden lenses, but no arrangement has held the shadow still. No cloud cover or hidden partition, no chemical seal, nothing explains it. Some hypotheses include subtle temperature differences in the stone that deflect light, or microcrystalline structures that scatter rays strangely. Others think it was built with sacred geometry, the kind of layout that aligns with the Earth's movement. Either way, the effect resists explanation, and so it holds our wonder. That's the same reason an ultrasound image holds meaning in a mother's heart, or a finger gently held in reassurance can speak more than 1,000 words. Presence transcends data. It's not measured by facts, but by feeling. In our own lives, we can be like this pillar, still in the middle of motion, rooted in quiet clarity even as everything around us shifts. It doesn't mean ignoring change. It means trusting in something deeper than the immediate glow. In therapy and meditation, this idea of being anchored in self, even when emotions surge, is a vital skill. We learn to hold still so we can see clearly. In technology, AI and robotics aim to mimic human stillness. They try to stay responsive while grounded, adaptive while stable. But sometimes, no code can simulate the calm of a shadow that resists time. The pillar reminds us that there are no replacements for human-centered wonder. And maybe that's its purpose, not to be a puzzle, but a reminder of our own capacity to be steady amid change. So if this story of the frozen shadow pillar moved you, please share a moment when you felt a calm presence that didn't shift, even when your world did. It could be a memory, a person, a silent thought. And if you'd like to explore more of these soft wonders, like this video and subscribe. Because in the spaces between shift and stillness, we often find the heart of what matters most. Moonlight compass ring. Have you ever stepped outside under a full moon and felt it wash over you in such a way that it seemed to show you something hidden, like pointing a silent finger toward an unexpected direction or revealing a path you hadn't noticed before? That's exactly what happens in an ancient courtyard tucked within the ruins of a long-forgotten temple, where under the soft glow of a full moon, a perfect ring of light appears on the stone floor, glowing gently brighter than the surrounding courtyard. And when you stand at the center of that ring, the brightest point always points true north, guiding you without need for compass or app, but only visible to the naked eye. It's a soft, quiet kind of magic that seems to say, trust the light. If you've ever felt something unexpected guide you through the night, a sudden breeze, a familiar path seen in the stars, or a moment you just knew which way to go, share your memory below and let us know where you're watching from, so we can build a quiet community of wonder. And if you enjoy gentle stories that shine in the dark, please like this video and subscribe, so we can continue walking moonlit paths together. The courtyard itself is small and simple. Flat stone surrounded by low walls decorated with spiral carvings, no metal reflective devices, No hidden mirrors, no cutouts to control the light. On nights without moon, the stone looks ordinary, worn by wind and time. But when the full moon rises, the carved stone seems to draw its light, creating a luminous ring 60 centimeters across. It glows steadily, not flickering, not appearing in parts just steady silver, like someone powdered chalk and poured it around the edge. And at a specific point on the ring, a small notch points toward true north, aligned with the North Star. That alignment happens only during the full moon. The rest of the month, nothing appears. Scholars who've studied it found no traces of modern materials or coatings. The stone absorbs the moon's light itself and then glows. It holds it, soft and tender, gentle whisper that points the way. You know moments when you feel guided by something subtle, like a memory that surfaces at just the right time, or a sign that seems to align without planning. Maybe a bird crossing your path before a big decision, or that little knot in your chest that says, go left. The moonlight compass ring works in much the same way. You don't have to use tools, just presence, just quiet. It's a guiding glow for someone who's lost. In relationships, we often talk about needing a sign, something small but clear enough to navigate by. That's what this courtyard offers. Light without words, direction without force. It trusts that we can feel it when we look. Visitors say that on full moon nights, the courtyard seems to hum with calm. The air feels softer, conversations are hushed, each footstep echoes less. It becomes a space held by light and stillness. Just like when two friends walk under the moon and don't need to speak, there's comfort in silent companionship. Here, the courtyard speaks without words, and people listen without saying a thing. Researchers from astronomy and geology tried to explain the glow. They tested the stone's reflectivity and mineral content. They shone artificial light at similar angles. Nothing matched. The glowing persisted only under moonlight and disappeared with streetlights or flashlight. It doesn't fluoresce under sun or lamp. It seems to respond only to that pale lunar tone. Some suggest the stone has microcrystals that resonate with the moon's wavelength, but so far, nothing conclusive. The courtyard remains quiet, waiting. That waiting is its message. Some mysteries require silence and time more than scrutiny. That idea resonates with us. Life doesn't always give bright beams or spotlights. Often, the movement we need comes in soft, slow light, a reminder that fades quickly but holds meaning. It's like that moment just before waking when we feel the warmth of a dream's ending, or the hush right before inspiration strikes. The ring glows for only a few hours each month, and we might miss it if we aren't paying attention. But when we notice, it's enough. Enough to guide, enough to calm, enough to connect. In language, we speak of following your North Star or finding your way. It often seems like we need grand signals, fireworks, signs, guidance systems. But the moonlight compass ring reminds us that a quiet glimmer can be just as strong. It suggests that navigation doesn't need noise, it needs clarity, and clarity can come in soft light. In mental health, professionals encourage people to find small, guiding light-steiny routines. Single breaths, moments of peace rather than grand epiphanies. This courtyard embodies that approach. It teaches us that guidance can be subtle and gentle, and that sometimes the softest light holds the truest direction. In technology, GPS and maps guide us by satellites and data, but they depend on satellites far overhead, chemicals, and screens. The ring points with moonlight, lowest deck, highest meaning. It reminds us of a more intimate navigation, the kind rooted in presence, not databases. A guide we don't update with software, but with mindfulness. Those who return to the courtyard often leave stones or notes at the ring's edged cocons of hope, gratitude, or intention. They wait for the next full moon to see if their offerings glimmer back, carried by the moon's quiet glow. It's a ritual of trusting small light to carry big hopes. And even if nothing appears, the act of waiting in the courtyard grants a kind of calm. It's a pause made luminous by silence. So, if this story of the moonlight compass ring inspired something, maybe a moment when a soft truth pointed you home, or a memory that glowed like the moon in your mind, please share it with us below. Where were you when you noticed it? And if you long for more gentle explorations of the world's quiet wonders, give this video a like and subscribe, because sometimes the right direction isn't in the brightest star or the loudest voice. It's in the gentle circle of moonlight that points our way when we need it most. Underground cloud dome. Have you ever stood outside on a humid morning and felt that soft mist wrap around you like a gentle hug, even when no rain has fallen? Now imagine being deep underground, enclosed in a vast, silent dome carved from ancient stone, and suddenly your breath becomes mist, as if the air is alive with clouds. That's the strange wonder of the underground cloud dome, a cavern so large it feels like an empty hall, and filled not with dust or echoes, but with drifting mist that floats like clouds hovering just overhead. Visitors speak of it in soft tones, saying the moisture moves in currents, forming thin tendrils overhead and pooling in the low spots near your feet. Yet there is no visible source, no waterfall, no steam, no airflow that could create it. If you've ever felt a place breathe around you like an old library where dust dances in a single beam of sunlight, or a quiet forest glade where the air feels soft and alive, share where you are in the comments. Your moments of gentle presence help build a calm, curious community. And if you find beauty in the quiet mysteries of our world, please like this video and subscribe so we can wander through more soft wonders together. The dome itself feels ancient. Its ceiling stretches high, rounded and smooth, carved by hands or nature long before memory. Standing inside, you look up into mist that glows faintly in the lantern light, then dips into darkness beyond the edges, making the space feel infinite. There's no wind, no drifting dust, just a slow dance of moisture that mirrors the sky but remains grounded in silence. Scientists who explored the dome brought sensors to measure humidity, temperature, airflow, and mineral content. The humidity readings were high. The air was cool and still hovering between 85 and 90% relative moisture, with temperatures steady around 17 degrees Celsius, but they found no obvious source. No vents emitting air, no underground streams rising, no heat to condense. Moisture, the dryness of surrounding rock, even after drilling, returned no signs of underground water pressure. It was as if the dome inhaled and exhaled moisture on its own. That kind of mystery draws people close to their senses. You feel dampness on your skin, not cold, but soft. It settles in the spaces between your thoughts. Each breath feels smooth, like breathing through the morning air. It brings to mind the quiet feeling of sitting by a pond at dawn, or walking through low fog in a field, the world softening at the edges. And yet this is deep underground. The paradox settles in your chest space without sky, mist without weather, movement without wind. It reminds me of the subtleties in our own feelings, what we sense quietly, but don't always name. A worry that circles our mind but remains unspoken, or a kindness so simple yet powerful it shifts how we wake in the morning. The dome's mist holds these small internal movements as if echoing them in stone. Local legends speak of the dome as a sacred thresholder place, where the world of the earth and the world of the sky meet in silence. People of old would travel deep into the caves on days of significant change, births, deaths, renewals, standing in the mist to press their hopes into stone and let the cloud carry it to the heart of the mountain. They left behind small piles of pebbles at the dome's edge, offerings of presents. Visitors today follow the same ritual. They step inside quietly, leave an object often nothing more than a folded paper with a single word, and step back to see if the mist engulfs it or leaves it behind. It's a way of trusting something beyond sight and words, presence you can't name but feel. It echoes how in relationships we sometimes need to be in a space of love or grief without explaining it, to just be together with others or alone and allow our feelings to move. In our own lives, we have moments like that, holding silence after a long day, turning off noise to notice that the air feels different, that the world feels paused. We learn that healing doesn't always come from action, but from reception, from letting time and silence do their slow work. The dome's mist isn't a cure. It's an invitation to notice, to feel, to be present. That's the kind of quiet reminder mental health experts now emphasize: pause, breathe, sense, not ignoring problems, but being in them long enough to hear their shape. Technology tries to recreate those moments: cloud lamps, humidifiers, climate chambers, but most are tame. They mist on timers, fill glasses with scent, cycle colors. The dome defies that its mist flows freely, quietly, and refuses instrumentation. You can't bottle it, you can't map it, you can only be in it. It touches the idea that some experiences are meant to surround us, not to be owned, that some mysteries remain richer when we can't measure them. There's a lesson here for how we handle knowledge. We collect, we record, we explain, but sometimes it's enough to carry wonder, to stand beneath a dome of drifting cloud, feeling something shift in our hearts, even if we can't explain the drop in moisture or the path of the mist. Archaeologists eventually studied the cave connections, mapping tunnels far beyond the dome. None connect directly to water, none point to airflow. It may be that the mist is released from micro cracks in the stone, or seeping in from layers far deeper below. Or it may be that we still don't have the tools to understand it, a reminder that nature's design can be more complex than our questions in language. We have words to describe sound, taste, sight, but fewer for the soft movement of moisture. We refer to spaces between words or moments between breaths. The dome gives that silence form. It shows that the spaces between movements matter. That presence is not just what you do, but what you allow to be. It bridges belief and perception. It bridges what we feel and what we can say. It asks, can we hold an experience without needing its name? When visitors leave the dome, they report feeling softer, like something in them moved. A grief that felt stuck loosens a little. A hope that seemed small grows a little larger. They don't report answers, but changes in perception, in relationships. We grow that way too, not through big moments, but through shared silences, presence in the same mist. We don't solve everything with words. We stand with each other in the dome of our own hearts. So, if this story of the underground cloud dome touched you a memory of a moment where something real arrived quietly, or a feeling of being part of something larger, please share that moment below. Let us know where you are in the world and what that kind of still wonder gave you. And if you believe in the power of calm curiosity, please give this video a like and subscribe. We'll keep stepping into soft mysteries together under domes, in corridors, beside shadows, and within gentle clouds, because sometimes the clearest truths come not in answers, but in the spaces between them. Lightless beacon tower. Imagine walking alone at night through an open field, far from any village or city, when suddenly you see a light glowing faintly on the horizon, a small, steady flicker, like a lighthouse calling ships home. You feel comforted, maybe even a bit relieved, thinking you're close to shelter. But when you finally arrive, there is no flame, no glass, not even an opening at the top of the tower where the light was supposed to shine. The beacon is sealed, solid, untouched by modern hands. Yet countless travelers over generations have sworn they saw the light from miles away, always glowing from the same spot. If you've ever seen something you couldn't explain, like a flicker in the corner of your eye, or a streetlight that blinked at just the right moment, share it in the comments below. We'd love to hear where you were and what you felt. It's through these small shared experiences that we build a thoughtful, gentle community. And if stories like this one calm your mind and spark your curiosity, please consider liking this video and subscribing. There are more quiet mysteries ahead. Now let's breathe into this one together. The lightless beacon tower stands alone on a rocky cliff where the wind never rests. Its surface is old, built of dark stone, smooth from centuries of storms. It has no doors on the upper levels, no stairs that spiral to the top. The room at the peak is sealed, yet that's where the light always appears. Not every night, but on clear nights, especially when travelers are uncertain or weather is about to change, they report seeing the glow. Some say it looks like moonlight, others call it golden or pale blue, but one thing stays the same: it draws the eye. Even people who don't believe in these things have paused and said, "Wait, did you see that?" Scientists who studied the tower used cameras and infrared tools to capture the glow, but nothing appeared on the recordings. The light seems to exist only to the naked eye, and only at a distance. The closer you get, the less it shines in teal. You're standing at the base of the tower and it vanishes completely. It's like the feeling you get when a dream starts to fade just as you begin to understand it. The paradox is quiet but real. Light that can't be touched, can't be recorded, and yet can guide. It reminds us of the strange truths in life. That can only be felt, the comfort of a hug, the weight of a choice, the hope that rises even when things don't change. The beacon becomes a mirror for our emotions, how something within us glows even when everything around us is dark. Think about the times in your life when you didn't know which way to go after a fight, before a decision, in the middle of change. Sometimes all it took was a small sign, a friend calling at the right moment, a song that came on the radio, or just the way the morning light came through the window. Like the tower, these moments offer no answers, but they shift something. They tell us we're not lost. Some say the tower was built not to guide ships, but to guide people back to themselves. In old records, it's mentioned as a place of quiet reflection, a place where people would walk, not to find safety, but to find clarity. They believed the light appeared only when a traveler needed it, not physically, but emotionally. That's something modern science struggles with. It's hard to measure human need. Harder still to explain why a person miles away might see a beacon that isn't really there. But maybe it is, they're just not in the way we expect. Like the gentle truths we carry in our hearts that can't be proven but shape everything. The tower shows us that some things don't need to be bright to be seen. Some truths don't need proof to be real. Just like in relationships, where love isn't always loud. It's in the quiet gestures, the small consistencies. Or in our mental health, where healing doesn't come from big, visible shifts, but from the slow glow of inner light, often unnoticed, but always present. The lightless beacon asks us to trust that light can come from places we don't understand. It bridges the line between what we know and what we feel, between logic and intuition, between science and soul. Some theorists have tried to link the glow to atmospheric conditions or ancient minerals reacting to the moon. Others believe it's a forgotten design, like a lens buried inside the stone, catching distant starlight in ways we haven't yet understood. But none of that explains why it's only visible to people in motion. Why standing still, you see nothing. Why approaching it causes it to vanish. It's as if the light exists only in the journey, not the destination. Just like many moments in life, where the meaning doesn't appear until you're looking back, or the way we only recognize growth once we've moved past the pain. The beacon reminds us that sometimes you have to move through darkness to see your own light, and that what guides us isn't always visible until we need it most. It's like walking through fog and finding warmth in your chest, even when the road ahead is hidden. That warmth becomes your compass. That quiet glow becomes your beacon. If you've ever been guided by something you couldn't explain, a feeling, a memory, a gentle presence, you've felt what the travelers felt looking up at the lightless beacon tower. And maybe that's the real lesson. That sometimes we don't need fire or wires or signals to know where we're going. Sometimes a presence is enough. A glow we trust without needing to prove. So, if that speaks to you, if you've ever followed a quiet light in your own life, or if you simply enjoy these soft mysteries of the world, share your story below. Your voice adds to the light we build together. Like this video if it helped you slow down. Subscribe if you'd like more calm thoughts, more wonder, and more stories where truth lives not in noise, but in the soft glows we carry within us. Tree-lined grid. Imagine walking through a forest where every tree is planted in a perfect grid, rows upon rows, spaced evenly like tiles on a floor, each one standing tall within invisible lines. You bend down and brush the earth, expecting to find wires, walls, or maybe thick stone beneath the surface. But there's nothing, just soft dirt, loose and free. And yet, every root stops at the same border, never crossing the invisible line beside it. It's as if the trees were obeying a rule they never learned, following boundaries no one taught them. If you've ever seen something in nature that felt too perfect to be random, maybe a cloud shaped like a heart, or birds flying in a perfect pattern, share that moment in the comments. Let's collect those gentle reminders that mystery still lives in the everyday. If stories like this one calm your thoughts and open your curiosity, like this video and subscribe. We have more quiet puzzles to explore together. Now, slow your breathing and imagine the path beneath your feet. The tree-lined grid sits in a wide open space, no fences, no signs, just the low hum of wind passing between the trunks. Scientists first noticed the pattern when drone images showed trees in long squares, like an orchard. But these weren't planted by people. There are no records of anyone laying this out. And when teams came to study it, they found that every tree's roots grow only as far as their square allows. It's not just a few, it's hundreds, maybe thousands. Roots grow strong and deep but stop as if they've hit glass, even though the soil is soft beyond the line. This behavior, they said, should be impossible. Roots follow water, space, and light. They don't follow shapes. They don't obey designs. But here, they do. It's like a classroom of students who all stay within their seats without ever being told. It makes you wonder, are the trees choosing to stay inside their invisible squares? And if so, what would make a living thing limit itself like that? Maybe you felt something like that in life. Times when you knew you could stretch further, take a risk, or cross a line but didn't. Not because something stopped you, but because something in you whispered not to. It might have been fear, or maybe comfort, or even just the habit of staying inside your square. That's the quiet question this forest asks. What invisible lines have we placed around ourselves? In school, we learn to stay in our lane, raise our hand, follow the steps. In jobs, we follow titles and schedules, sometimes even when we outgrow them. In relationships, we play roles we learned years ago, afraid to shift even slightly. And in our minds, we carry invisible grids, too old beliefs about what we can be, what we deserve, how far we're allowed to reach. But what if those lines aren't really there? What if, like the trees, we're standing on open ground, believing there's a wall when there isn't? The tree-lined grid feels gentle, but it touches something deep, a paradox of freedom and self-made limits, of nature choosing order without force. Some believe the trees were altered long ago, trained by ancient methods now forgotten. Others think there's something magnetic beneath the soil, a pattern left by the earth itself, shaping the roots from below. But the more you listen, the more it feels like the grid isn't about the ground at all. It's about choice, and maybe something older than choice. Like memory, passed down without words. Like how birds know to fly south. Or how you sometimes feel something is right without knowing why. This forest becomes a soft mirror for how we live. It asks us to notice where we stop, not where we're forced to stop, but where we pause without asking, where we've accepted limits we've never tested. Think about the last time you avoided something new, even though you were ready, or when you felt something bigger inside you but chose the smaller path because it felt safe. These moments live in all of us, and they're not wrong. Sometimes staying in the square is what we need to feel grounded, to find rhythm, to rest. But other times, the lines don't protect us, they shrink us. And the trees, quietly standing in perfect shape, remind us to notice the difference. In a way, this forest is not about rules. It's about the quiet agreement we make with our surroundings. We shape ourselves based on what we expect to find, just like in friendships, where we act smaller around certain people, or in jobs where we don't ask for more even when we've earned it. We stop at lines that don't exist anymore, and the tree-lined grid, with all its calm and order, gently invites us to ask, what would happen if we reached past the edge? Would we find resistance, or more space? That's the quiet power of this place. It doesn't tell you what to believe. It just shows you something simple and impossible, and lets your heart ask the rest. So as you breathe slowly and reflect on this forest of lines, ask yourself, what's your square? Where are you stopping? And is it really time to stay there, or time to grow beyond it? Share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes your quiet question is exactly what someone else needs to hear. And if you want more calm mysteries that whisper instead of shout, stay with us. Like this video if it helped you see yourself more gently. Subscribe if you're ready to explore the places where belief, nature, and curiosity quietly meet. Moss that paints. Have you ever walked along an old stone wall and noticed how nature seems to fill in the cracks with soft green life, as if the world itself is healing the wounds of time? Now imagine an ancient temple whose carved relief, painted in bright ceremonial colors, have long since faded, leaving only grooves and shapes in the stone. Yet, with each passing season, visitor after visitor sees those carvings come alive again, not by human hands, but by living moss. In spring, delicate green fronds line the figures. In summer, they deepen to emerald. In autumn, they flame in russet and gold. And in winter, they turn a soft silver gray, perfectly matching the temple's lost ritual hues. It's as though the wall itself remembers the colors its people once saw and calls the moss to fill in the shapes at just the right time. If you've ever felt nature's gentle touch bring you comfort, perhaps a flower blooming against a brick wall, or sunlight peeking through clouds just when you need it, share that moment and your location in the comments. These shared memories remind us how alive our world can be. And if you love soft journeys into forgotten places, please like this video and subscribe so we can wander together through more gentle mysteries. In that courtyard, the moss moves almost imperceptibly. A researcher called it painting in slow motion. Early explorers thought someone was replanting the green each season until they set up cameras and found no one returning to tend the walls. The growth happens naturally, following the reliefs, contours, filling deep crevices first, then creeping outward to brush the shallower lines. By midsummer, the carvings glow with a vibrant green that glistens in the morning dew. By autumn, the moss shifts to fiery tones, burnt orange, deep red, warm yellow mirroring fallen leaves. In winter, a pale frost dusts the moss, turning it to silvery gray, as though the temple has dressed itself for a festival of quiet light. It's a cycle that echoes our own rhythms. The bright energy of youth, the golden warmth of maturity, the quiet rest of reflection. Local villagers speak of the temple as a living canvas, and they return each season to watch the art emerge. They leave small tokens, a ribbon, a flower, a stone in the crevices, trusting that the moss will weave them into the design. There's no hurry, no need for tools. Just time, rain, sunlight, and the patient work of countless tiny plants. In everyday life, we chase quick fixes, new apps, fast results, instant feedback. But the moss reminds us that some creations need slow patience, healing, love, understanding. We can't rush them. We can only tend them gently and let them grow. Scientists have tested the stone, the moss species, even the microclimate of the courtyard. They measured moisture levels and soil nutrients, examined spores under microscopes, yet they could not fully reproduce the effect elsewhere. In laboratories, moss grows, yes, but never in perfect, living color schemes that match human art. They concluded, it isn't just biology, it's a dance between the moss, the stone, and the shifting light of each season. A reminder that true wonder often lies in the meeting of natural patterns and human history. That intersection touches belief, language, mental health, and even artificial intelligence. In belief systems, we speak of sacred spaces where the divine meets the mortal. This wall feels such a space. It speaks without words. It teaches us humility, that our creations, even when abandoned, can be reclaimed by life. It asks us to trust cycles of growth and decay, rebirth and rest. In language, we have phrases like green with envy or golden opportunity, rooted in color's power to move us. The moss wall gives color, its deepest meaning color, shaped by time, memory, and light. In mental health, therapists talk about slow gentleness, practices of self-care that grow over time, not overnight cures. Just as the moss doesn't bloom in a day, our inner healing takes seasons. We plant small seeds of kindness, rest, healthy habits, connection, and watch them spread. And in AI, engineers create algorithms to paint images in seconds, yet struggle to replicate nature's subtle timing and context. The moss reminds us that some patterns require life's unpredictable rhythms, not just coded instructions. At night, the walls take on a new magic. Under moonlight, the moss glows faintly, revealing details invisible by day. Those who visit after dusk report a sense of calm wonder, as if the temple itself is breathing softly. It feels alive, and in that living art, we find reflection of ourselves, the parts of us that shift in light and shadow, that grow and rest, that remember what we have lost and patiently reclaim color over time. If this living tapestry spoke to you, if it reminded you of something you've nurtured slowly, or a memory that came into focus in its own time, please share your story below. And if you'd like more gentle explorations of places where history and nature intertwine, like this video and subscribe. Together, we'll continue to walk softly among moss-carved memories, letting each season's quiet beauty paint our hearts. One stone pyramid. Imagine standing before a structure so perfectly shaped, so mathematically aligned, that your first thought is, this must have taken thousands of stones, stacked one by one, cut and fitted with absolute care. But then you step closer, and you realize something impossibly. It's not many stones at all. It's just one, a massive pyramid, complete with terraces, passageways, and finely chiseled steps, all carved out of a single giant slab of rock. No seams, no joins, no tool marks you'd expect. It's as if the rock itself decided to fold into the shape of a pyramid, guided by invisible hands. The mind doesn't know what to do with that. You stand in silence, and it humbles you. If you've ever stumbled across something in life that made you stop and ask, how is this even real? A perfectly timed moment, a coincidence too sharp to be random, a human act too kind to be expected, please share it in the comments. Those shared moments connect us. And if you find peace in discovering gentle wonders like this, please like the video and subscribe to this channel so we can keep unfolding these soft mysteries together. Now imagine the patience, the vision, the silent hours it must have taken to shape a mountain into steps without cutting it apart. How do you even begin? No cranes, no lasers, no computer software to guide the angles. Not even steel tools, according to some estimates. And yet, it rises smooth as melted candle wax, sharp as geometry in motion. You can't even slip a piece of paper between the edges, because there are no edges. It's as if time moved backwards for a moment, and something forgotten shaped the world with a kind of knowing we don't have anymore. The deeper you look, the quieter you get. In everyday life, we build from parts, bricks, apps, plans, relationships. We stack things together and hope they hold. But this pyramid suggests another kind of making, a kind that starts with one whole thing and gently reveals what was already inside. Like a sculptor removing what doesn't belong, not adding what does. What if our lives were shaped that way? Instead of constantly reaching for more, what if we quietly uncovered what's already inside are patience, clarity, balance. The one's pyramid becomes not just a mystery of ancient engineering, but a mirror of how we live and grow. And this mystery touches more than just history. In belief systems, there's an idea that some things are simply meant to be complete from the start, waiting to be seen. This structure feels like that. In language we say someone has a solid foundation, or that they are grounded words that speak to inner strength shaped over time. That's what this pyramid reflects. In mental health, there's often pressure to fix ourselves by adding new habits, new therapies, new tools. But what if healing is sometimes about carving away the noise, slowly, patiently, to find the shape of peace beneath the stress? And even in the world of artificial intelligence, where we teach machines to build and think in layers, this structure reminds us that true genius might lie not in complexity, but in elegant simplicity, knowing what to leave untouched. Locals speak of the pyramid as if it breathes, not literally, but emotionally. You walk up its steps, and you feel its weight settle into your chest, not as pressure, but as calm. You're held, somehow, wrapped in the patience of the stone. People bring questions. They're about love, loss, choices. They don't expect answers, but they often leave with a feeling, like the shape of something solid forming slowly beneath. The confusion, the most surprising detail, is that it isn't flashy. No gold, no inscriptions, no statues. Just the stone, carved into levels, weathered by time, but whole. It doesn't shout, it whispers, and maybe that's why it stayed. So quiet in the world, hiding in plain sight, waiting for those who slow down enough to notice it. Imagine walking up its steps with someone you trust, sharing a secret, a hope, or a silence that needs no words. You wouldn't feel like you were walking toward something. You'd feel like you were going inward, step by step, toward stillness. That's the power of spaces like this. They remind us how little we need to feel complete, and how much beauty there is in carving life carefully, gently, from the raw material of who we already are. If you've ever felt shaped by time, by a journey, by something that didn't add to you but instead helped you let go, please share your story. And if this pyramid moved something in you, even slightly, please like the video and subscribe. Let's keep walking gently through mysteries that don't need to be solved to be loved. Echoes of builders. Have you ever stood alone in a quiet place and suddenly felt like you weren't alone at all? Not because someone appeared, but because the space itself remembered something. There's a collapsed temple deep in the forest, half swallowed by earth, its walls broken and vines curling through the cracks. It doesn't seem like much until you step inside, where the roof once was, and listen. That's when you hear them footsteps. Not loud or heavy, but clear. They move through the space as if someone else is walking alongside you, even though no one is there. Some say it's the wind, others call it echo or imagination. But here's the strange part. When scientists recorded those sounds and analyzed their patterns, they didn't match normal footsteps made by any living person. Instead, they reflected something older, patterns that somehow aligned with acoustic signatures believed to predate human architecture. Almost like the place remembers a rhythm from before we knew how to build. That kind of mystery doesn't just live in stone, it lives in us too. Have you ever felt something familiar in a dream you've never had before? Or heard a sound, maybe just a song or a knock, that stirred a memory you couldn't place? If something like that ever happened to you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. These little moments, strange but soft, are what connect us. If you find comfort in exploring them gently together, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Let's keep unfolding these quiet wonders. Now imagine that ancient temple, sun spilling through the broken walls, dust floating like whispers in the air. There's no ceiling to reflect sound, no corridors to carry it, and yet the footsteps echo like they've been waiting for someone to listen. People come from nearby villages, not just out of curiosity, but almost like visiting an elder. They bring food offerings, not to statues or gods, but to the space itself, as if saying thank you for holding the past so carefully. One old man said, "It's not ghosts walking, it's the work remembering its makers." That line stays with you. In school, we learn about history through facts and timelines, but this temple teaches through feeling. A creak in the floor, a shift in the wind, a sound with no source, like the space itself is still alive, gently breathing the memory of those who shaped it. In our daily lives, echoes show up too. You try to move on from something, an argument, a failure, a goodbye, but parts of it stay, not to haunt, but to shape how you grow. The sound of past moments still walks beside us, and maybe that's not a burden, but a soft reminder. In relationships, we feel echoes in the way someone speaks or the way they leave the room. Familiar habits passed down from parents, friends, or even old versions of ourselves. In belief systems, echoes can be rituals or chants that calm the mind, even when we don't fully understand their origin. In mental health, echoes take form as emotional patterns, like when an old fear reappears in a new situation, even though everything around you has changed. And in AI, even machines work through feedback loops, listening, learning, repeating. Echoes live everywhere. This temple just makes them loud enough to notice. Some say the sound only comes when you enter, with a calm heart. If you rush in, talking or filming, it stays silent. But if you pause, breathe, and step softly, the footsteps return, like they're responding to your presence, not to scare, but to say, "You're part of this story now." And that makes you think, what stories are we leaving behind in the spaces we touch? Not just buildings, but words, gestures, memories. What will echo when we're no longer there to speak? If that question ever stirred you in a quiet moment, please share it. You're not alone in that wondering. People who visit the temple often leave with more questions than answers, but they also leave slower, softer, like they've remembered something deep inside themselves. That's what mystery does, not confuse us, but return us to stillness. The footsteps don't need to be solved, they just need to be heard. And maybe the purpose of some echoes isn't to explain the past, but to remind the present to listen. If that thought brings you a kind of peace, please like the video and subscribe. Let's keep walking together through these gentle places where sound has no source and silence carries memory. Perfectly dead circle. Have you ever walked through a field of tall grass, your feet brushing against blades that bend and sway with every breeze, only to step into one spot where nothing grows at all? No grass, no weeds, not even a single wildflower, just bare, undisturbed soil, as if the earth there decided to rest forever. That uncanny stillness is exactly what explorers discovered at the heart of a sacred ruin high in the hills. A perfect circle, 40 feet across, where no plant has sprouted in more than 3,000 years. It sits undisturbed by seasons, storms, or wandering animals. Locals treat it with hushed respect, saying it marks a boundary between worlds, and they won't cross it unless they bring offerings and open their hearts to what once was. If you've Ever felt a quiet invitation in a place, certain spot under a tree or a corner of a room where you pause and breathe easier? Share your experience in the comments and tell us where you are. These shared echoes remind us how our own sense of sanctuary grows in unexpected soil. And if you find calm discovery in journeys like this one, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can walk with us through more gentle mysteries. Standing at the edge of that circle, you feel the change before you see it. The grass around you rustles softly as if to say, "Stay here." Inside the ring, there is no movement, no whisper of wind. It's as though the earth holds its breath. Scientists have carried soil samples away, testing for chemicals, pollutants, even ancient curses, but their lab results always read the same: normal soil. No poison, no heavy metals, no volcanic ash. They see nothing to explain why life stopped at that line. Archaeologists compared carbon dating from the ruins' walls and the soil around the circle and found that the empty patch is as old as the ruin itself, perhaps older. It suggests that when the temple was built, workers purposefully cleared that patch and consecrated it so deeply that the earth itself obeyed. Imagine how often in life we clear away old patterns, habits, beliefs, worries, and hope something new will grow. We might start a journal or attend a class, but unless we truly prepare the ground inside us, old weeds sprout back. This sacred circle shows what happens when clearing is done with full intention, when boundaries are set not out of fear, but out of respect. The builders of the ruins seemed to understand that making space is as important as filling it. They didn't try to force new growth. They simply marked a place to honor silence and stillness. In everyday moments, we feel similar patterns. After a long day, you might choose to sit on a quiet bench rather than walk on busy sidewalks. In relationships, you might draw gentle boundaries, reserving a few minutes each day just for yourself, so that deeper connection can grow without overwhelm. The perfectly dead circle, in its own strange way, embodies that sacred pause, a place where life stops so something deeper has room to be felt. Religious traditions have long set aside grounds for meditation, prayer, or fasting spaces, cleared of distraction so the spirit can speak. In language, we even call silence the space between words. And many poets say the unspoken line holds more power than any verse. Therapists remind us that sometimes the healing we need comes not from adding self-help tips, but from resting in a quiet space, letting implications settle. In mental health, this is called active rest or psychological sanctuary, a chosen pause that replenishes rather than consumes. And in AI, engineers talk about zero-state systems moments, when the machine rests, clears its memory cache, and starts fresh. The sacred circle feels like a natural zero state, a reset for earth, mind, and heart. When travelers learn of the circle, they often bring simple offerings, smooth stones, folded papers with silent prayers, a single flower, and lay them at its boundary. They don't toss coins or shout incantations. They place their tokens with care, step back, and wait. Some say they feel a subtle energy shift, a warm pulse beneath their feet. Others report dreams of the ruins' earliest days, builders chiseling stone, priests chanting in the open, a sense of birth and blessing. These experiences aren't dramatic. They're as soft and personal as your own memory of a childhood lullaby. But they linger, folding into the traveler's life far beyond the hilltop. In technology, we design circuits that need grounding spaces that safely disperse excess electricity so devices can operate smoothly. We call them ground planes, and without them, systems fail. The sacred circle is like a ground plane for the ruin and for those who visit. It disperses mental noise. It calms the mind's electrical storms. It offers stable grounding in a world that hums with distraction. And unlike metal earth straps, its material is pure soil and intention. The paradox of the circle is that it is the emptiest place that still feels most full. Full of possibility, full of meaning, full of gentle power. Think of how an empty chair at a family table holds the memory of someone who's passed, or how a quiet hour in a garden holds more comfort than a crowded party. We often live in spaces crowded by tasks and thoughts. We forget that emptiness can be more alive than noise. The builders of this ruin and their dead circle seemed to know this. Deeply, each season, the circle remains bare winter. Grass dies to brown, yet the circle stays a darker shade of nothing. Spring arrives, and everywhere around springs green, but the circle still lies clear. Summer's heat wilts some plants, but those outside recover, while the circle remains empty. Autumn's leaves fall, and everywhere the ground is dusted in. Gold everywhere but the circle. It holds its emptiness as firmly as it holds its shape. That steadfastness is a lesson in itself. Boundaries set with care can endure storms, floods, drought, and still keep their purpose. One researcher noted that the circle's silence and stillness seemed to seep into the ruins' inner chambers. Visitors complained less of echoes in holy halls. Priests spoke fewer repeated chants. They said their voices felt absorbed by the sacred ground, returned to them gentler, softer, like water filtered through stone. That made them think, what happens when we speak softly to the earth? Do our words return kinder? Do our hearts listen more closely? It's a reminder that the spaces we clear around us shape not just what grows, but how we grow. At dusk, when the day's noise softens and the last light paints the ruin in amber, the perfectly dead circle glows faintly against the fading grasser, ring of calm that invites travelers to sit. They close their eyes, feel the cool earth, and breathe more deeply. In those moments, they sense that emptiness is not absence, but presence in another form. A presence so simple it feels like home. If this story about the sacred dead circle stirred something in you, perhaps a longing for stillness, a memory of a quiet place you love, or a wish to create space in your own life, please share it below. Tell us where you are and what your circle of calm looks like. And if you'd like more gentle reflections on the world's hidden wonders, give this video a like and subscribe, because sometimes the most alive places are the ones we leave empty, waiting for life to return in its own perfect time. Starlight Fountain Map. Have you ever walked by an old stone fountain and thought it was just a broken relic, only to come back when the sky changes and find it reveals something you never expected? That's exactly what happens in a hidden courtyard deep within an ancient ruin, a dry, cracked fountain that seems ordinary, until a rare comet passes overhead, and then, suddenly, delicate carvings along the basin begin to glow, lighting up a pattern that mirrors a star system far away, one visible only during that comet's visit. It's as though the fountain itself waits, holding its breath for the right moment to speak. Imagine standing there under the night sky, comet arms arching above, and seeing stone illuminate with cosmic design stars and lines that match distant points of light, mapping out constellations you can't normally see. It feels like discovering a secret message written by your ancestors directly into the earth, using sky as ink. If you've ever seen a celestial event meteor shower, eclipse, cometant felt time pause and everything else fade but that moment. Please share where you were and how it felt in the comments below. Your stories connect us under these same skies. And if moments of quiet cosmic wonder calm your spirit, please like this video and subscribe so we can explore more gentle mysteries like this together. The fountain sits silent most nights, echoes of dripping water long gone. But when the comet is near, light seems to shift in the courtyard. No electricity, no hidden bulbs, just stone and sky. As the comet's glow fades, fresh light gathers on the fountain rim, illuminating faint grooves in the stone dots that align, curves that connect, forming the shape of a star cluster observed through a telescope. Modern astronomers came to study it and found that the pattern matches a star system located 30 light-years away, one that only becomes visible near the comet's arrival. The timing is uncanny. No known culture in this region had recorded that system, undoubtedly newer than the fountain itself, and the comet only passes every 70 years, meaning it might appear just once or twice across a lifetime. That kind of waiting is profound. Think about expecting important news college results, a job offer. You mark a date and you wait. You come back at sunset. You return at night. You return again. And maybe when it finally arrives, the world rearranges. Everything feels wide open again. The fountain works the same way. It stands there, quiet, for decades, centuries, waiting for the moment the sky and stone aligned, and then it transforms. It reminds us that silence isn't empty, it's preparation. It's the hushed pause before something sacred. In everyday moments, we chase quick updates, new messages, breaking alerts, fresh headlines. We jump at every notification, hoping something lights up. But the fountain teaches us that some things are meaningful precisely because they are slow to come. A thoughtful card in the mail, a handwritten note, a friend's delayed return, called they arrive softly, and they matter more for it. Instead of reaching outward, these moments let us come inward, and that inward shift can quietly expand us more than constant noise ever could. Local villagers say the fountain was built to remind people that their lives are written in starlight, that we're part of something bigger. They come during the comet event and leave polished stones in the basin, hoping their intentions align with the cosmos. No fanfare, no ceremony, just quiet presence. They leave, sure that even after they're gone, the fountain will remember them during the next comet window. That act feels like a soft prayer, gentle trust in time, memory, and the sky's slow dance in mental health. Therapists encourage people to mark time in personal rituals, small actions that become anchors in the rush of life. Like the comet fountain, these moments gain power because of their delay. They arrive when we're ready. They glow because we've waited. They remind us that healing, like cosmic alignment, takes time. In technology, we've created systems that light up instantly, bright notifications, live dashboards, instant search, but the fountain stands against that. It suggests that tech cannot replace waiting, cannot engineer presence. It says some patterns only reveal themselves to those who show up again and again across years. It values intention over instant ambient. When visitors watch the fountain during a comet event, they speak in whispers. The night air feels thick with time dust from centuries swirling in the comet's light, soft footsteps on ancient stone. They often feel a shift inside, a quiet expansion, a still joy at seeing something that only appears because they were patient, It's poetry without words. It's history meeting hope. If this moment of quiet cosmic wonder touched you, reminded you of slow things that matter, tiny blessings that appear only after time, share it below. Did you ever wait and then feel changed when what you waited for came? And if you believe in mysteries that arrive in whispers under open skies, like this video and subscribe. Because sometimes the deepest connections are written in stone and starlight and only appear when we're still enough to notice. Sleeping rock faces. Have you ever walked past a familiar place so often that it seems frozen in memory, only to return one day and find it looking right back at you, as if awakened from a long sleep? That same uncanniness unfolds on a cliff known for its sleeping rock faces, powerful stone carvings of human faces laid to rest, their eyes sealed shut in gentle slumber. These carvings stand still through centuries, untouched and motionless, until once each year, when shifting light and moving shadows cause the stone eyelids to part, revealing pupils that seem to gaze out from within the rock. It's a sight that makes you stop breathing just a little, as though the landscape itself has remembered something it forgot to feel. Have you ever been surprised by a moment of lifelike stillness in nature, like a tree that bends just so in the breeze, or a ripple in a pond that looks like a message? If so, share it in the comments below, and tell us where you are. It helps build this quiet, curious circle of shared wonder. And if stories like this ease your mind and spark your imagination, please like this video and subscribe, so we can keep exploring the world's soft mysteries together. These faces were carved into a cliff face high above a valley floor, by artisans whose names have vanished with time. You climb a narrow path lined with moss-covered stones, and find yourself standing in front of smooth rock surfaces where human expression is etched degree by degree. Strong jawlines, high cheekbones, pursed lips, all perfectly still. For most of the year, the sculpted eyelids sit shapely and closed, as if the figures sleep. But on a particular day in mid-spring, a subtle shift in the sun's angle casts a shadow like a finger across each eyelid, lifting it just enough to reveal a dark dot beneath, and those dots align with the viewer's eye level, making it seem as though the faces are blinking awake, glancing forward in unison, before falling back to peaceful slumber. It takes patience to witness it. Only those who come before dawn and stay until after sunrise see the moment. Some visitors come year after year, positioning themselves the exact same way, camera in hand, ready to freeze the moment. Others sit quietly, with no intention of capturing it, just to feel it. They describe a stillness in the air that holds its breath, a hush that falls thicker than autumn mist. It's the kind of silence where time drapes itself slow, soft, deliberate. In our own lives, we carry thoughts and emotions that seem frozen, regrets, unfinished conversations, hopes left unsaid, and often we forget they were there. Then, in the shifting light of a new season, someone cracks that silence with a word, a glance, a daybreak, and we blink awake. Think of waking from a deep sleep, not because you're startled, but because something in the morning light gently pulls you back. The rock faces teach us that awakening can be soft. It doesn't have to jolt the soul. It can unfold, eyelid by eyelid, in its own time. Families sometimes gather here, setting blankets at the foot of the cliff and waiting through breakfast's warmth. They bring tea and honey, sharing past stories so the moment feels lived rather than observed. Some elders say the faces are ancestors, carved into stone so they can watch over the valley, opening their eyes once a year to show they remember and still care. The ritual is not dramatic, No chants, no claims of power, just warmth and company as dawn unfolds by stone eyes open to sky. Language often borrows from moments like this. We say awake to possibility or open your eyes to wonder. These phrases echo what the cliff offers, not a loud awakening, but a gradual one, born of patience and light. And in mental health, therapists encourage gentle awakenings, moments of insight that require minimal pressure, small shifts of attention, rather than grand revelations. They call it micro-mindfulness. The carved faces are a physical reminder that care can awaken what seemed lost. Softly and reliably, cameras set up to record the sunrise found something surprising. The faces open and close at a slightly different time each year, depending on cloud cover, angle, and even moonlight. Each spring brings its own version of awakening. Never rushed, it's a reminder that true growth resists perfection. It arrives when conditions align, not because we force them, but because we notice them. In today's world, we chase breakthroughs. We push for signs of growth, career, relationships, identity. But perhaps some awakenings are meant to be slow and silent, like muscle memory returning after illness, or old love stirring after years apart. The rock faces remind us that our own hearts and minds can open quietly, revealed by light, connection, or new perspectives. We don't always need grand stage cues. Sometimes we just need the sun to shift. Even architects and engineers marvel at the precision of the carvings. Depth of the eyelids, the positioning of the eyes, the way shadow dances across stone centuries later. They speak of the sculptor's knowledge of sun arcs and light paths, of deep calm in knowing both art and earth time. It's a reminder that structures can touch us not by defying nature, but by collaborating with it, honoring light and seasons. Slow pulse, as the faces close back again, returning to their centuries-long dreams. Visitors report feeling gratitude, deeper sense of time's gentle course. They describe hearts slightly softened, minds slower, breath quieter. It's not a dramatic shift. It's a deep one, felt in the hollow spaces we carry inside. And maybe that's why people return. Not to capture a perfect moment on camera, but to let the moment carry them, to meet the place again with new eyes. If this story of the sleeping rock faces opens something in you, even a small sense of calm, memory, or hope, please share it below. Where were you when you woke quietly to something you thought was sleeping? And if you'd like more stories that dwell in the soft spaces of mystery and memory, like this video, subscribe and stay with us. Because some awakenings are gentle, and sometimes being ready is enough to see what's been there all along. Impossible balancing stones. Have you ever stood before something so astonishing that your breath seems to hold in your chest without even trying? That's exactly the feeling when you first see the impossible balancing stones, giant boulders, each weighing tens of tons, stacked together with a precision so fine they look like child's play. One massive stone teeters atop another like an egg balanced on a spoon, with no mortar, no glue, not even a wood or metal pin holding them in place. And despite earthquakes, windstorms, and centuries of wear, they remain absolutely unshaken, perfectly poised. That kind of impossibility wakes something in us, a question that isn't about physics, but about what we believe is possible. Have you ever done something you thought you couldn't, like walking through a challenge without falling, or speaking a truth that felt heavier than you? Please share your moment in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. When we share our own small, improbable acts, we find we're not alone in standing firm against gravity. And if stories of gentle wonder ease your spirit, please like this video and subscribe so we can keep exploring these soft marvels together. These stones stand in a remote valley, tending toward mist in the early morning. Pale light filters through. The trees landing on smooth stone faces that join together at delicate angles. You walk around them, expecting to feel instability, but nothing shifts beneath your feet. You expect creaking, cracking, collapse, but there is silence. These stones do not invite climbing. They demand reverence. People who visit say the stillness feels alive, as if the rocks themselves are wide awake. Archaeologists and engineers first tried to explain the balancing. They scanned every contact point, measuring angles and centers of gravity. Most boulders touch at only a few square centimeters. That's less than the size of your open hand. Seismologists placed motion, sensors nearby, waiting for tremors, aftershocks, seasonal shifts. But the stones didn't budge, not by millimeters, not by microns. They defy not just gravity, but our expectation that weight settles, that structure weakens over time. These massive balancing acts remind us of moments in life when everything depends on a tiny hinge, a word, a gesture, a choice. We feel heavy, with responsibility, wondering if we'll stay upright. And somehow, we do. We balance. We find ground. Just as the stones remain steady, so can we in our own uncertain hours. Local tradition says the stones were placed as a test of balance, not just physical, but spiritual. Builders carried them by hand, sliding each massive slab into place until it glowed just so in morning light. Each evening they stepped back to watch the sunset move across the stone faces. No tool records remain, no written accounts. All that lives is the precision of placement, a prayer in balance made visible in stone, and like a whispered chant passed down without words, the memory of care resonates in the valley's hush. Relatable, right? Think of balancing school and friendship, career and self-care, hope and fear. We tilt often, and still we don't collapse. We make the load, sometimes with a single breath, sometimes with a hand that steadies us. The balancing stones speak, not only of ancient skill, but of human resilience, how we hold ourselves when the world feels heavy in mental health care. Counselors talk about balance points, small acts that keep us steady, a moment of sleep, a warm cup of tea, a kind word from a friend. These aren't grand fixes. They don't weigh much, but they're placed just so among life's heavy stones, and they can hold us upright. That's the real lesson of these ancient formations. Brilliance lives not in massive breakthroughs, but in small, patient shifts done just right. Even language shows this. We speak of finding balance, staying grounded, standing firm. These phrases echo the stone formations as well as internal practice. We build values in our lives not by piling more on, but by aligning what we already hold with gentle intentions, just as the stones fit together without adding, by shaping and positioning. Engineers studying the stones have tried to model them for AI. Purpose is algorithms that arrange blocks so they don't fall. Some patterns work, others fail. They discovered that randomness doesn't balance. It's not brute force. It's subtle alignment, angle by angle, until each block's weight supports the whole. That's like building community or healing or hope. Not by stacking more support, but by placing each part with kindness and care. One moment of tilt, checked backward, and everything holds. Visitors often leave pebbles or tokens at the base, natural markers symbolizing their own moments. of balance. Some place a smooth stone to honor a day when they chose kindness instead of harshness. Others leave a note of gratitude for holding together despite storms. Each token joins a quiet conversation across generations, tiny acts in support of delicate strength. At dusk, the valley fills with golden light. Shadows lengthen on the stones. The smallest shift in air temperature casts movement across the rock faces, so slight that you swear you saw a ripple of light move across the top stone, as if to say, "We're still here." And you feel the stones breathe. Just a breath, a calm. Their stillness is a living rhythm, not frozen in time, but full of quiet heartbeats. If this story of the impossible balancing stones moved, you maybe it reminded you of a time you held your ground, or placed a gentle weight upon someone. For support, share it below. Where were you? What helped you stay upright when life leaned heavy? And if you'd like more slow wonders that reflect the quiet resilience inside us all, please like this video and subscribe. Because sometimes great strength lies not in holding more, but in aligning with care. Inverted gravity pool. Have you ever stood beside a bowl of water and felt, for just a second, that gravity might not be what you think until you realized gravity is always what you think? That's the curious feeling you get standing before the inverted gravity pool, a smooth stone basin carved centuries ago, where water mysteriously climbs upward along the inner wall, defying both intuition and explanation. You can dip your hand, watch the water rise, even measure its height against the stone, but every experiment leads to the same quiet wonder. This water simply refuses to stay put. It moves upward, gently, steadily, softly, like a silent invitation to question what else we take for granted. Have you ever held a belief only to find it gently shifting under your touch, like thinking you knew someone well, and then one day, something they do surprises you? If so, please share your experience in the comments, along with where you're watching from, so we can build a community of curious hearts. And if you find calm fascination in the world's soft mysteries, please like this video and subscribe. There are more gentle wonders waiting to be discovered with you. The basin is carved from a single piece of local limestone, smooth and ancient, its curves worn by time. It's set into a quiet courtyard, where sunlight warms the stone and tiny insects hum near the edge. When water is poured inside, it can't help but flow out, or so you'd expect. Instead, a thin ribbon of water climbs. It's not fast, it's not loud, it barely makes a sound, but over hours it inches upward until it seems to float near the rim, resting as if it belongs there. Scientists have studied it with bottles, rulers, cameras. They measured pressure, temperature, water chemistry. Nothing changes. No pumps, no magnets, no hidden read devices. Just stone, water, and curiosity. In everyday life, we climb through routines that pull us down, work, stress, expectations. We carry weight. But sometimes we rise, quietly, one step at a time, through small victories, calm moments, simple connections. We climb because we choose to. This water does the same. It doesn't surge. It doesn't defy violently. It climbs with gentle persistence. It shows that rising can be a quiet act of trust in time. Trust in subtle forces we don't fully see. In relationships, the smallest acts: a shared coffee at sunrise, a message just to check in, a hug when words aren't enough, build upward motion over time. They lift us. They add weight to the days without adding burden. The inverted gravity pool reminds us that love, kindness, healing, and hope can climb slowly, one drop at a time, until our hearts reach new heights. Visitors often dip their fingers into the bowl, feel the cool stone, and watch the water rise past their touch. Some describe a feeling like being gently lifted, as if the bowl holds not just water, but possibility. We pour a little of ourselves into challenges, into friendships, into moments, and sometimes we rise above expectations quietly, mirroring that bowl's slow ascent. Technologists have tried to recreate the effect printing 3D bowls, using sensors, even AI to model invisible flows. But none hold water in the same way. In a lab, a bowl is just a bowl. In a courtyard, it becomes a map of gentle magic. It stands against brute logic and shallow measurement, reminding us that not everything must be controlled to be real. Language captures this too. We speak of lifting spirits, rising above, elevating ourselves. But often, we think of these as big acts. The bowl teaches us they can also be small, slow, certain. Maybe the greatest rises happen, not in leaps, but in inches. In mental health, specialists talk about small wins, tiny, almost invisible changes that build steady hope over time. One step toward recovery is often just as vital as 10. The water's climb embodies that perfectly. It shows us that transformation doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to persist. You might visit the bowl at different times of day. You might pour fresh water in, let it climb, and return hours later. You see it again and again, doing what it quietly does. No fanfare, no explanation, just change. And sometimes that's enough. In ancient times, people left offerings around the bowl, small stones, petals, folded papers with quiet prayers. They didn't shout for miracles. They watched, quietly hopeful that small acts could yield change. Their trust in slow motion was enough to shape the courtyard's calm glow as evening falls and the courtyard cools. The water settles, sometimes even receding slightly before the moonlight kisses it again. It makes you think about how life doesn't travel in straight lines. It moves up, then circles, then ascends again. The bowl reflects that cycle. It teaches us that even quiet elevation matters. If this story of the inverted gravity pool brought you a moment of wonder, or reminded you of a small step you've taken that led you higher, please share it below. Together, we'll build a gentle map of hope, shaped not by leaps, but by steady ascent. And if you believe in the power of small wonders to hold big meaning, like this video and subscribe. We'll keep climbing with curiosity, 1 inch at a time. Tunnel to sky. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wished the stars were closer, brighter, and somehow more real? Now imagine walking down into the earth into a tunnel that gets darker, cooler, quieter, and suddenly finding a hidden pit where the stars above look 10 times brighter than in the open sky. It doesn't make sense. You're underground. There's no glass ceiling, no tricks of reflection. Just a wide open pit, framed by ancient stones, where the stars don't just shine, they blaze, like tiny suns waiting to be touched. This place is real, and yet it doesn't feel like it belongs to our world. Have you ever had a moment where something small felt too powerful to explain, like reading a message from someone just when you needed it, or feeling peace in the middle of chaos? If you've ever seen something ordinary in an extraordinary way, please share your story in the comments and let us know where in the world you're watching from. Every voice builds this quiet community. And if you enjoy these peaceful mysteries that gently bend the rules of what we know, Please like this video and subscribe so we can walk further together into wonder. The tunnel starts out like many old places, worn stairs, moss-covered walls, a sense of stillness in the air. At first it feels like just another abandoned path, something forgotten. But the deeper you go, the more the sound changes. Your footsteps become softer, your breath feels slower. The walls seem to hold your thoughts in silence. And then, suddenly, you step into a circular opening, and the earth ends, the sky begins. A perfect pit cut so smooth and deep that it seems like someone pulled the stars down into a well. The night sky above may be full of light pollution, clouds, and the blur of city haze. But here, in this pit, the stars shine like they've never seen a streetlight. You can see constellations clearly, planets glowing faintly, and sometimes even the soft trail of the Milky Way, like dust spilled across dark velvet. It doesn't seem logical. Scientists have tried to explain it as an effect of natural lenses, maybe something about the angle of light or the cold air at the bottom, but no one really knows. It's too deep to test easily, and yet too gentle to ignore. People have tried to photograph it, but the photos never look the same. The real beauty lives in the moment you stand there, your neck craned upward, and feel the stars staring back. In a strange way, this place reminds us that sometimes, to see clearly, we have to go deeper, not higher, not louder, just deeper. Like during exams, when the pressure pushes us to find clarity, or in relationships, where quiet understanding often shines brighter than loud arguments. Sometimes, the deepest truths don't come from noise, but from stillness, from going down, not up. There are times when the only way to move forward is to pause and look inward, to take that tunnel into ourselves, into memory, into silence. That's where clarity lives. That's where the stars wait. People leave offerings around the edge stones, shaped like hearts, tiny carved animals, even letters folded neatly and tucked into crevices. Some say if you make a wish under those stars, it will find its way up, through the pit, and be heard more clearly by the universe. It's not magic, it's not science. It's just something people do when they feel small and hopeful at the same time. And maybe that's what makes it special. This pit is old, older than most maps. And yet, it never grows outdated. It asks nothing from you. It doesn't speak, it just shows. And sometimes, that's all we need, is space to sit quietly and see the world differently. There's a kind of peace that comes from watching stars in silence. They don't move quickly. They don't burn with drama. They just shine, even when you're not looking. That's how faith works too, or healing, or love. They don't always announce themselves. They just wait patiently for us to notice. This tunnel to the sky becomes a place not just of sight, but of reflection. Visitors describe feeling lighter, even though they've walked downward. They feel opened up, even though they're underground. That's the paradox. Down becomes up, dark becomes light, silence becomes meaning, and in that shift, something changes inside us. We begin to wonder how many other truths are just habits we've never questioned. Maybe light isn't always found above. Maybe peace isn't always loud. Maybe the best view is waiting where we'd least expect to find it. Even in technology, we see this. Sometimes, innovation doesn't come from building up, but from stripping down, from simplifying, from going back to what matters. This tunnel reflects that. It doesn't need lights, mirrors, or metal. Just stone, depth, and patience. In mental health too, The idea of going into the darkness to find light is not new. Therapists talk about shadow work, the process of facing hidden parts of ourselves, and often it's when we finally allow ourselves to sit in quiet, to stop running, that clarity finds us. Not all healing looks like progress. Sometimes it looks like stillness, like waiting at the bottom of a quiet pit for the stars to appear, and appear they do. Every night, in full clarity, reminding us that beauty doesn't always need to be chased. It can also be found by standing still, breathing softly, and looking up. If this story helped you see the stars in a new way, or made you think of a moment when you found light in darkness, please share it in the comments. We are each a little like stars, quiet, shining, waiting to be seen. If you feel a little more connected now than before, like this video and subscribe. There are more journeys waiting, more tunnels that lead not down but into the sky. Ageless sand ruins. Have you ever stood in the midst of a swirling desert storms, sand whipping so fiercely around you that every breath feels heavy with grit? To step through a nearby doorway into an ancient courtyard where not a single grain of sand has settled, as if someone drew an invisible line and said, "This place is pure." That is the quiet paradox of the ageless sand ruins, an architectural marvel carved from the same stone as the dunes themselves, yet perfectly protected from the desert's embrace. Imagine approaching these ruins under a blazing midday sun, the wind carrying clouds of dust, and finding yourself in a space so still and clean. You could lie down on the stone floor and feel nothing but solid calm beneath you. No sand drifts through the cracks, no whisper of particles collects in corners, just smooth stone walls etched with patterns of lost empires, and empty halls that echo only your own breath. If you've ever discovered a place of unexpected quiet beach cove shielded by cliffs, a forest glade hidden from the wind, or even a moment of peace in a busy day, please share that memory in the comments along with your location so we can build a gentle community of shared wonder. And if this story of timeless mystery warms your heart, consider liking this video and subscribing for more quiet journeys through the world's soft marvels. The ageless sand ruins lie at the heart of a vast desert plain, where sandstorms rage throughout the year, shifting dunes by the day. Yet these structures, built millennia ago, remain untouched by that relentless sand. Explorers have tried to trace the boundary where the dunes meet the courtyard, expecting to find hidden channels or clever walls, but no barrier exists. There's no moat, no windbreak, no glass or metal shielding the entrances, just stone thresholds open wide to storms. Yet inside, stone remains as clean as carved yesterday. Scientists have tested air currents, wind tunnels, and even static electricity within the ruins, but nothing explains how sand is kept at bay. The particles swirl around every corner outside, yet seem to vanish when they cross the threshold into the sanctum. It's as if the ruins themselves breathe a gentle force, drawing sand away the moment it nears, leaving the interior pristine. Think of moments in your own life when something seemed to repel negativity, like entering a friend's home and feeling lighter instantly, or stepping into a quiet garden after a stressful meeting. In those moments, you cross an invisible line from noise to calm. The ageless sand ruins magnify that shift on a grand scale, showing us that boundaries need not be harsh or physical to be real and effective. They can be silent, subtle, and surprisingly strong. In relationships, we learn to set gentle boundaries to protect our peace, turning off our phones at night, refusing to discuss work at the dinner table, or simply breathing slowly before responding in anger. These small acts keep the sand of stress from filling our inner rooms, just as the ancient builders kept real sand from filling their courtyards. Local legends speak of the ruins as a sacred place where the desert's fury meets the earth's calm, and that balance was achieved through intention more than technology. Stories tell of priests and builders who carried minimal tools, working by starlight and wind to shape the stone. They carved symbols of protection into pillars and floor spikes, waves and suns that some believe form an ancient code, a language of stillness that echoes in the silent halls. Pilgrims still come today, leaving small offerings of incense, water, or polished stones at the entrances. As if to honor the delicate pact between dust and stone, they say the ruins teach an age-old lesson, that true sanctuary arises from aligning purpose with design, not from resisting the world, but from welcoming it on your own terms in everyday life. We often try to resist challenges by building walls, literal or emotional, that can trap us in isolation rather than offering real protection. We may erect defenses of anger, avoidance, or perfectionism, only to find ourselves stuck and cut off from warmth and growth. The ageless sand ruins show a different model, a space that includes the world but remains pure within, like a heart that opens to pain and joy without being overwhelmed. That kind of architecture isn't built by mortar alone. It's shaped by mindfulness and intention. In mental health, therapists talk about safe spaces in the mind places we create through breathing, visualization, or supportive self-talk, where distressing thoughts can't settle. This mirrors the ruins' magic, a sanctuary that isn't hidden away, but lives at the center of life's storms. Engineers and architects who've studied the site often find themselves humbled by its elegance. They attempt to replicate the effect in modern buildings using smart materials, airflow systems, and electrostatic filters, but the results lack the ruins' effortless grace. Technology can push away particles, but it hums, buzzes, and needs power. The ruins stand silent, powered only by the dance of stone and wind, by the geometry of walls and open sky. It suggests that sometimes the best solutions blend with nature rather than overpower it, like people who soothe themselves by stepping into nature, not by blocking it, out finding harmony rather than conflict. Language, too, offers parallels. We speak of filtering out negativity, of clearing our minds, of making space for what matters. These phrases echo the ruins' empty rooms, free of sand. They remind us that clarity and calm often follow intentional clearing of thoughts, of clutter, of habits. And in relationships, we value friends who listen without judgment, providing a space where our worries can't take root. Such friendships are living versions of these ruins' sacred courtyards in our hearts, where peace prevails as you walk through the ruins at dawn or dusk. When colors play gently on the stone, you feel time dissolve. The world outside feels distant and raw, but inside, you notice the texture of your own breath, the softness of your footsteps, the steady rhythm of your heartbeat. It's a meditation in stone, a classroom for presence. You learn to be curious about the quiet, the way no sound collects, the way echoes linger without noise, the way dust motes simply drift down only to disappear. Those motes are like passing thoughts. Notice them, but don't let them settle. Pilgrims and travelers often leave written notes, small prayers, or reflections stuck into cracks, trusting that the courtyard's purity will honor them. Some say those notes vanish over time, carried away by unseen winds. Others find them decades later, untouched, as if waiting for the right reader. It's another gentle reminder that intentions planted in calm places can flourish unexpectedly in ways we can't predict. Just as the ancient builders intended these spaces to remain ageless, perhaps they also intended kindness, hope, and insight to travel beyond the walls, carried on currents seen only by those who believe. In closing, the ageless sand ruins stand as a testament to what happens when design, belief, and environment align. They show us that building sanctuary isn't about resistance, it's about harmony. They teach that true boundaries are both open and protective, that real calm exists at the heart of chaos, and that sometimes the most powerful structures are those we hardly notice because they speak in silence rather than noise. Next time you feel overwhelmed by life's storms, be they external pressures or inner turmoil, remember the ruins. Step into your own stone courtyard of stillness. Breathe. Let the dust swirl around you without entering your space. And know that your center can remain clean, calm, and timeless, no matter how fierce the winds may blow. If this story brought you a moment of peace or a spark of wonder, please share your own experiences of finding calm in chaos, and subscribe for more gentle reflections on the world's hidden marvels.